Hello, and welcome to another episode of Sum of Our Parts, the podcast where two friends talk about all the movies that add up to make us who we are. I'm Lindsay,
And I'm Jim.
and this week it was my pick. And I decided since it's June, it's Pride Month, we were picking something gay. So I picked classic, To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar from 1995. So, Jim, is this a movie you were familiar with that you'd seen?
I had not seen the movie. I knew about the movie because mostly of Wesley Snipes and Patrick Swayze, who had been in other
Mhm.
movies that I'd seen. And I
Yes.
remember when the movie came out and thinking, when I knew about the movie and so on and so forth, but thinking, well, that's different. And I even wrote down the bold acting choices on
Mhm.
all the actors' parts, particularly because this was not their first movie. This was not a role that they maybe necessarily needed to take, but maybe wanted to take. The first mention though that I ever knew about John Leguizamo.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I knew about the movie. I remember seeing things about the trailer and so on and so forth, but I had not watched the entire movie until you suggested it. So and I really appreciate the recommendation. I enjoyed the movie very much.
Good. Well, I'm glad. That makes me happy. Yeah, this movie, I didn't see it when it first came out because I was five.
I was getting ready to say, I don't think that they would have let you in the movie theater. Maybe with your dad.
Maybe,
I don't know what
maybe.
kind of rating it. Well, it wasn't really a. It wouldn't have gotten maybe a
I think maybe PG
PG.
13.
Yeah, maybe PG
Yeah.
13.
Like they say the word dick, but I don't,
But
it's
yeah,
not
but I mean,
anything like graphic or anything. No.
no, and there's no real. There's no real scenes of violence or suggestions and so on.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
anyway.
But yeah, so I saw it when I was younger. I don't remember exactly when. I was asking my dad actually. I was like, "Did we watch this movie together?" And he was like, "I'm not sure." So, but I'm almost certain that I probably stumbled upon it. There was a period of time when I was like an adolescent that I would just watch any movie that came on Showtime because usually Showtime played
Oh.
slightly like less like popular movies. I think they played a little bit more of like the cult classic type movies that
Mm-hmm.
weren't necessarily going to be on like HBO. So I probably stumbled across it there. And I love drag. I have loved drag for like a lot of my life. Like I remember seeing like RuPaul in things for the first time. RuPaul obviously with a cameo in this movie and just like loving it. So I think that like drag was very fun to me and like I grew up, watching movies with these other people in them,
Was
right?
this
Like
one of the first movies you think though that you saw that portrayed drag, and then or was
probably.
okay? I was just curious if this was one that you chose later on, or this was one of the first movies that you saw and you thought that's
I
fun, or that's I
yeah.
like that.
I
So
think this is probably one of the first ones.
okay.
And then obviously, now we have like RuPaul's Drag Race and like drag queens from RuPaul's Drag Race are kind of in all sorts of other things and like RuPaul is everywhere. So I think that it's a little bit more like, throughout the culture
Mm-hmm.
in a way that maybe it wasn't. Actually, what? I think The Birdcage was probably the first one movie I saw
Okay.
with drag because I
Mm-hmm.
did watch The Birdcage when I was a kid with my dad.
Okay.
I didn't like get it, but I definitely watched that. So I think probably The Birdcage and then this being kind of the things I saw with drag. And obviously like the people, there are cameos by real drag queens in this movie, but like Patrick Swayze and Wesley Snipes and John Leguizamo are not real drag queens. And now like having like taken in a lot of drag and watching this again, I'm like, oh my God, John Leguizamo's makeup looks so bad. That's why at the end, Chi Chi's wish was to like have foundation that matches her skin. Because I was like, girl, you look like a mime. But in any
She almost
case,
looked like a vampire.
right.
you
It
know,
was very like
it was very
kabuki,
yeah,
like
but like pale looking. Yeah.
pale. And no, I'm like, girl, no blush, like no nothing, no
Yeah.
definition, no
We,
warmth.
we'll get into her
She wasn't there yet. She
transformation.
wasn't there yet. She wasn't there yet. But
Exactly.
but yeah, in any case, I think like drag I love and Yeah, I just and like the idea of like drag queens in a small town, I think is just a kind of a fun premise. So I
It's a
think it's just
classical fish out of water
right, very
story.
much fish out of water, right? Car breaks
Hmm.
down, here we are in this place. And you know, a road trip movie, I think that's sort of a classic genre. It's sort of a spin on that a little bit.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think it's just one, and I think it's one that like drag queens like enjoy and like find to be a classic, right? Like one of my favorite drag queens is someone called Trixie Mattel, and like Trixie Mattel has a YouTube channel and did a whole video of like Trixie Mattel like watching this movie and like reacting to it
Oh,
and
okay.
loving it. So I think this, even though like the main characters are not like actual drag queens in real life, I think that there is still like a reverence for this movie.
Okay.
Um it
They
was
didn't feel that they misrepresented them, or that they portrayed them in a bad light.
right. I mean, I think the biggest misrepresentation that I'll just say off top is like drag queens don't like live in drag. They're in drag 24/7 in this movie. And it's like you do like take off the makeup and like go to bed.
Well, see, I was going to ask you about that. Okay, so you brought that up first. So I was
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
say,
yeah. That I
because,
think is like the biggest thing. And I think to some
okay,
extent, like when they're in the town, it makes more sense because they're like
right, trying
trying to
to,
pass a little bit. They're trying to camouflage themselves. But like I do not believe that a real drag queen, unless they were filming something specifically, would be in drag for the entirety of a road trip.
right.
Like, because also,
Like
like,
even traveling, I mean, you
right,
know,
driving in a convertible with a wig on.
well, I have to admit that they had the scarves over their hair.
They
So,
did. They
so that,
did.
they were keeping it, keeping it real. So,
Yeah. But also, then, like, later in the movie, Patrick Swayze's wig gets knocked off by, like, a chandelier. So I
I
was like,
know
well,
it. Yeah,
obviously, we're not securing them strongly. I don't know. Maybe they had a lot of wig glue on in the car, but
maybe.
that I think that piece is the biggest, like, not realistic piece. But it's like it's for the movie. It's for a little heightened
Sure.
situation. I also think that it the writer is a gay man
Oh,
from New
okay.
York, so I imagine that you know he exists in this community, and obviously a lot of like real drag queens have cameos. So like most of the other queens at the beginning are real drag queens, and obviously like RuPaul's in it. Like Lady Bunny has a cameo in it, who's like a famous New York
Oh,
drag
okay.
queen also. Like, so there are a lot of real drag queens in the movie at the beginning and at the end at the pageants.
I looked in the cast ensemble and it would say so and so as herself,
Yeah,
so I assumed that they were really in that lifestyle,
yeah,
and that, it wasn't just other actors portraying drag queens.
right, right. So like for example, Coco Peru is at the beginning. There's the one who's like, take my face to Sweden and I'll win a Nobel Prize. Like at the
Oh,
very beginning, that's
yeah.
Coco Peru, who's like famous drag queen. Lady Bunny's like in the sitting at like the judges area with like a big blonde wig on. And then like RuPaul, like I said, as Rachel Tensions, which I think is a hilarious drag name. That was just great. RuPaul as Rachel Tensions wearing a Confederate flag dress.
That was I was going to say, and then with the outfit, come on, that
Yes.
was I mean, that just
Right. A seven, like RuPaul's like 6'7", right? So like an
right.
almost 7 foot tall black man in drag in a Confederate flag dress is
Uh-huh.
quite an
Name
image. Named
Rachel
Rachel Tensions.
Tensions. It
Classic.
was, yeah. Well, all the names.
Yeah, I think that is one of the fun things of drag, right? Is
Mhm.
names. Like
Yeah.
people have such great names. There was one queen on the last season of RuPaul's Drag Race named Amanda Tori Meeting. So her name
Oh
was Amanda
gosh.
Tori Meeting. So
That's
whenever she
good.
would come out, RuPaul would be like, "Everyone come to the boardroom. It's a mandatory
That's for
meeting."
me.
Um, so like people could be very like clever with it. So anyways, do you want to we can start, I guess, just
Well,
talk through.
yeah, we'll start with the beginning, which really I can't imagine seeing this on the big screen, because boy, we got close up on
Oh yes.
on that skin. So I was like,
Yes.
if they had any flaws in their skin, it was there to be seen
Oh
for
yeah.
sure. So
Yeah. So we get
uh,
to see Patrick Swayze as Vita Boheme and Wesley Snipes as Noxima Jackson getting ready for this pageant. the drag queen of New York
Yeah.
pageant. And so drag pageants are like a thing.
Okay, so that was going to be my next question. Are those legitimate? Is that a real events that they have? Okay, so
Yeah, I don't know if like the drag queen of New York is like
oh, like
is one, like
yeah,
that one is
but they
specifically.
do have
But
pageants.
yes, like Miss Continental is a really big one.
Oh,
But yeah,
okay.
there are lots of pageants. And so like you see for people like if you watch RuPaul's Drag Race, for example, there are
Hmm.
always some drag queens that come in and they're like, "Oh, she's a pageant queen."
Oh,
Because
okay.
like that's the sort of world they exist in. So they're like the gowns, the big jewels, like they're doing this. That's
Gotcha.
like what they do. They compete
Oh, okay.
in this thing. So yeah, I think, we get to see the drag transformation for both of them. So like
Yeah.
there's the makeup, the pads, the tights, the corsets, the boobs, the wigs,
Well, I
the
was impressed
outfits.
with Patrick Swayze's character,
Mhm.
Dita. The at first when you see just him sitting there, and then starts the preparation with the pulling his hair back,
Mhm.
and then okay, let's go and stuff. So
Mhm. Mhm.
gotta say
Yeah.
though, this is just one man's opinion. Wesley Snipes, good
Yeah.
actor, great in the character role, does not make a good.
I will also say, first of all, when they zoomed in on Wesley Snipes, I was like, now a queen would have shaved. Wesley Snipes had all the stubble. I was like, no,
I
no, 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 no.
I thought about that because you sort of saw Patrick Swayze look at his face, like
And
what
and shave,
and shave
dry
and
shave
then
a little bit.
right exactly. So, but then yeah, and but you know, try as they might, and like I said, everything else was good, but you could just look at Wesley and just go.
Yeah.
Plus, Wesley looks like a fullback, for
Yes. I would say like now I feel like the maybe the drag makeup has evolved also. So I think that like it was less people were like less then, and now I think people do.
do more.
Yeah, they do more, and like it really like watching RuPaul's Drag Race, if you just watch like the moment when they like get ready,
Hmm.
it truly is like a transformational thing,
Well,
right? Like
even
you
the difference.
change the shape of your face.
Well, the difference between and I know that maybe I don't know if it was supposed to be that way that you could tell that they were men dressing up as women, but you could just like RuPaul's character, and I know
Hmm.
and I know RuPaul is
Hmm.
does that, but it was like you could look at RuPaul and think that's a woman,
Hmm. Hmm.
and Wesley, you're not going to get that vibe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Patrick didn't look bad, although I thought Patrick looked like Julie Andrews.
Yes. Yes. And had kind of that aesthetic. It was a little old
Little
Hollywood,
almost like
little
50s,
older
60s.
lady.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
kind of got that vibe from the clothes, and then from
Yes.
the sort of her uh, spirit, her attitude, or
Her
her
like over the way she talked and like
yeah,
walked around
yeah,
like
yeah.
this.
So
We
yeah,
must be a lady.
yeah,
That
yeah.
that kind of vibe. Yeah. And then you get from like Noxema Jackson, Wesley was a little more like streetwear and
Street.
kind of downtown vibes, a little more modern, right? Because it's 1995.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Although the
yeah,
fashion, I think, was still maybe it was almost from the 70s, I thought. Like
yeah.
Noxema's like, maybe 70s, 80s, a little it was a
Hmm.
little that era, maybe.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I could see that for sure. But yeah, so they tie to win this pageant, and they win a trip to California to compete in the national level of this pageant. And as they're leaving, they meet Chichi Rodriguez, or as they identify Chichi, the little Latin boy in drag.
in
Why
drag.
is the little
So.
Latin boy in drag crying? Noxie, ask the little Latin boy in drag why is he crying? And then Noxie, little Latin boy in drag, why are you crying?
And by the way, you do know that Chichi Rodriguez is the real name of a professional golfer who was from Puerto Rico.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so there really is there really was a Chichi Rodriguez from the
Oh,
50s and the 60s, played in the same era as Jack Nicklaus the Lee Trevino and them. So yeah, so
well,
she
there we go.
when they it's Chichi Rodriguez, I thought, oh my god, that is so fun.
Well, John Leguizamo is Puerto Rican, so
Yeah, yeah.
Makes
So
sense.
yeah, and I have to say before you, and even though the makeup wasn't good or anything, I actually thought, all things considered, John probably looked more like a woman,
Hmm.
maybe in my opinion, than the other two did.
Yeah.
Just in appearance, if you were to look, just look, and that would you could, because I could look at John Leguizamo like that, and I thought, I don't know if that's John Leguizamo or not.
Hmm. Yeah,
Without, I thought they did a really good job.
for
But
sure.
he did a great job.
The thing that really gets me, the walk. I'm like, you
Oh my God.
always walk like a heel is broken.
Yeah.
And I think it was trying to get like
Uh,
a bigger hip sway,
I was going to say,
like looking like you have a broken foot always. It was like a weird limp. But yeah,
so
I
anyway,
think
so I took you off pass. So yeah, so the little Latin boy in
Little Latin
drag.
Boy in drag. Essentially, what they end up doing is saying, okay, you know what? You can come with us to California. Really, that's Vita is into this idea, and Noxima is like, who is we? What are you
Yeah.
talking about?
What's his
Uh,
wee stuff?
yeah. So they go to the China doll.
China Bowl. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
We
I
get a
thought it was
Naomi.
Sardi's. It looked like Sardi's in New York.
Yeah, it does. We
Yeah.
get a Naomi Campbell cameo
Yes. Notice
saying
that.
saying
Yes.
to Noxima Jackson, I wish I could be as beautiful as you,
Good luck.
which is hilarious. And then almost immediately, another cameo from Robin Williams, who
Who I did
actually,
not know was in this movie at
yeah, I
all.
think he was actually offered a part, one of the main parts, and said,
Oh.
no, I'll let somebody else have it. So he gets a cameo as John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt.
And he's like just off his,
He's just going. He's
you
like,
can tell he's
you
just
you wound him up and let him
and let
go.
him go. I'm
He's
sure
just
none of that was
talking,
scripted.
flirting with Chi-Chi, just like going. But he's also sort of one of those people who can kind of make things happen. So they're like, okay, we have 2 plane tickets. We need to turn this into a way to get 3 people to California. Long story short, they buy a car. They could buy the more functional Toyota Corolla. But as Vita says, this is one of life's greatest questions: form or function? And
And
naturally, they choose form because they choose a yellow Cadillac convertible,
it is a
which
great car,
obviously
you got to admit.
it does. It looks like it goes with their looks much
Exactly. Come
better.
on. Yeah.
As
So
a
yeah.
person who does listen, I do sometimes choose form over function. Like with clothes, there are times when it's like, I know I'm going to be walking a lot and I should wear more comfortable shoes. However, they're ugly and I don't want to do that. So I'm
And
just going to suck it up.
as my wife tells me, beauty costs, whether it's money or pain. Sometimes it costs. So,
And I'm willing to pay the price, you know?
and that's what she said. Sometimes you got to be willing to pay the price. So,
Yes. We get a little bit of Vita's history. So Vita grew up in Ballisonwood, Pennsylvania, which is like outside of Philly. And they go there and she grew up in like a very fancy area,
yeah,
but is obviously a family that was not affirming or accepting.
evidently.
Because mom gets a little gander out the door and slams it, which then leads Vita to like flipping a Yui and speeding
And
away without the map.
yeah, it tears up. Maps are cheap. I love that line. Maps are cheap.
Yes. Next, I think we get another iconic line from this movie, which is when Noxima is explaining to Chi-Chi that she's not a drag queen.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, because
When a gay man has too much fashion sense for one gender, that is a drag queen. She also talks about definitions of transvestites and transsexuals. Some of this is a bit outdated at this point, but the drag queen definition, I think,
well,
stands.
I know when he was trying to explain, because you're not a drag queen, and then this is why, and I thought, well, that's as good a definition, I guess, of any I've ever heard. So
Yes.
and I
Yeah.
never thought of it that way. So
That's one of the lines that always like stuck with me from when I watched it the first time.
which also
Like,
makes me realize how drab men's fashions are, really, I guess. So
yeah,
what are
yeah,
we going to do about that?
for sure. You got to start dressing like the guy, that boy who ran the shop that they dressed up in the yellow.
Well, I don't know if you noticed, but 70s, it was all 70s disco.
I do really think that there is something to be said for like previous eras of men's fashion.
I have
Color, pattern.
style.
Where are the short shorts anymore? You know,
Right.
people used
Well,
to have the shirts unbuttoned really low. Not that everybody needs to do that, but you know, why not?
no,
Like
but I mean, the
as an
chains, men
option.
wore chains,
Yes,
we,
jewelry,
yeah, we had,
accessories, hats,
that was always, yeah.
maybe a
So
say something hat.
maybe. So anyway, yeah. So I thought, oh, how drab it must be then that they can't express themselves in men's clothes. That
Hmm.
they have to. But hey, they do a great job. So
Yes, yes. But as I said, if they were real life drag queens, they would also be they would be in the car in men's clothes.
that's
Um,
what I wondered about that. So
but yeah,
yeah.
no, that's yeah, that would not happen. Because it's a lot, right? Because also like people are wearing like corsets. You don't want to sit in a corset in a car for hours either.
Well, that's what I wondered. I
Um,
wondered if I mean, I would think it would be uncomfortable, but
yeah,
women do it.
that's true. I
Kudos
mean, I've never worn a corset though.
well,
I
I'm
wouldn't
just
wear it in a
saying,
car trip.
no,
I'll
but
be pulling over to change, just like
yeah.
they did. Um, but yeah, so Chi Chi is offended at being called not a drag queen
Hmm.
and decides to stomp off. But then they're like, okay, you're a drag princess and you have 4 steps to become a queen. We're not going to tell you what they are. You will know when you get there. And they continue on. They are so tired and they want to stop at a hotel, but they're like scared, right? There's real fear that like, I don't
Oh,
know if we're going to be able to stay here.
and so I was going to ask you. So it seemed to me at this point, this wasn't really a well thought out adventure. I know
No,
the end goal was to get to Hollywood, but there was no thought between New York and Hollywood, where to go, where to stay.
no, it
That
didn't
and
seem
how
that
much money
way.
did they have? Because
Right.
I know they got it. What John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt said $1,000 he'd give him for the 2 plane tickets,
Yeah.
and the car cost him. What did he say? Was it $50? He said
Something
any
like
car on the
that.
lot mentioned my name, and any car is $50, or you get $50 off. I don't know, but it was like so. I guess they had some money left over from selling him the plane tickets.
Yeah,
But
but
anyway, but
still,
yeah. So
drag's not a lucrative profession, especially in 1995.
I was getting ready to say,
Um,
so because I assumed they didn't have other jobs. I'm
right.
guessing. So
Yeah. Um, I mean, again, if it was real life, then they would, or they would like make money like hosting and like doing events and stuff.
right. So they're on their road trip and they're looking for a place.
They stop at a hotel. They're like, we cannot go in there. They're not, no, this is not going to go well for us. And Chi Chi is just like, okay, well, I'm going in. So they were like, oh god, we gotta go with her. And the like concierge is like, oh great. I guess he thinks that they're part of the women's basketball group that's there because it's a bunch of like large women.
Your friends are inside.
Mhm.
I love that.
Yeah, I was just like, oh my god, who is it gonna be? Because I forgot, I
I
haven't watched this in a while.
I
It's
know
like,
that's what I wondered. I wondered, well, wait a minute, what
is
group
there
is
like
in
a
there?
drag queen convention at this hotel? No, it's women's basketball. So they spend the night, they spend some time by the pool, have a very nice, restful visit.
Well, there is also a nod to White Men Can't Jump
Oh,
because
yes.
Wesley, sinks makes a play, and for those of you who don't know, he was with, Woody
Woody Harrelson and White Man
Harrelson
Can't
in
Jump.
White
But
Men
yeah,
Can't
but this
Jump.
time Wesley's in a wig and like a tennis dress and is
Love
like,
that, by the
woohoo,
way. Yeah, and had
woohoo.
the braids. Love the
Yes.
braids. So
Yes. So it's quite a it's quite a scene. But thankfully they're safe. I also forgot to mention back when they were at the China Bowl, that is where the
oh,
title comes from.
sorry.
There's a picture of the actress Julie Newmar, that she signed that says to Wong Fu, thanks for everything, Julie Newmar. So that is where the title comes from. Because and Vita talks about like, oh my god, Julie Newmar, like perfect woman, like look at how gorgeous she is, the only Catwoman. Like
And she was, although Eartha Kitt made a great Catwoman on Batman
yes,
as well, but Julie
yes,
Newmar was uno numero to me. So
yes. Well, you and Vita,
just saying.
you and Vita and Carol Ann,
Exactly.
we'll talk
So
about later. But
eh,
so thankfully that was kind of first obstacle of the trip and they made it through. They continue on and seem to be having a good time. They stop, or they're driving at night and they're trying to figure out where they are. And here's a line that I thought you might appreciate. I don't know if you picked up on it, but the last person I saw on the side of the road had nothing but 2 teeth, so we must be in West Virginia.
I said, really? A West Virginia joke because the person had 2 teeth. Thank you.
I mean, listen, I've driven through West Virginia many a time and I have seen it.
Lived there, got it. I get it. I get it. So it's fine. It's fine because I get redemption a little bit later on.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, yes, they get pulled over by this like local little county sheriff who is Chris Penn, who you might know from like Footloose and being Sean Penn's brother. He's also in Corky Romano. Great
Oh, I forgot
movie.
about that movie. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's on my list because
Oh, okay.
it is incredibly stupid, but it's one that I do at times still quote to
Well,
this day.
we have to laugh at
Definitely.
it. Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
As Sheriff Dullard,
yes,
as
Dullard,
his badge says.
but his name is actually Dollard, and he keeps telling people it's a misprint. So he says their taillights out, and essentially he tries to first he is like fully racist because he talks about Vita riding with an N-word
And
and
an S word.
and an S word. He's using all the racial slurs.
Right.
Um,
But this is where my redemption comes in because he says, "Where do you think you are?" And he said, "Oh, West Virginia." "Oh no, you're far ways away from West Virginia." And I thought,
yes.
thank God they
Yes.
aren't in West Virginia.
For sure. Also, like, what do they know about geography? Because when I looked it up, like, it's supposed to be like Nebraska. I was like, have y'all ever seen them? You didn't think
How
if you're
far?
driving that long, you thought you were only in West Virginia.
West
You went from,
Virginia?
because they were in Pennsylvania before. I was
I
like, you
know.
don't have any concept of time or space.
Well, I wondered about that too because I would have think it would have taken them a lot longer than a day to get to Nebraska. But
Yeah.
anyway, but
But
anyway, so
you know, we haven't seen the whole trip, I guess. But
no,
essentially the cop wants to see Vita's driver's license, which will obviously have Vita's real name, which is Eugene, right? Vita's name is not Vita Bohem.
right.
And there's nerves about that. She gets out, and then he tries to like feel her up and like sexually assault her. She shoves him, and he like hits his head, and is like, they're like, "Oh my God, is he dead?" Which is a funny scene.
Yeah, because nobody wants to check
Yeah, they're like,
until
"Oh my
Chi
God, you
goes
check."
over and
Yes.
yeah, he's deceased.
He's deceased. Oh, and that's after she said he's prejudiced. I think he might be prejudiced. And Noxima is like, I'm sure you were the brightest one in your class.
That was a classic line. I love that. Yeah. So when they're in the car and Vita's out there with him and she
Yes.
she
I
just
think
looks.
maybe he's prejudiced. But yeah, no, I have that written down. Oh, and the best part of that whole scene too is when he tries to feel up Vita and she says, "Get your hand off my dick, buddy."
And Shades of Roadhouse.
Yes. There's Patrick Swayze. So then of course, they like speed away, leave a shoe like Cinderella.
Mm-hmm. But thinking he's dead.
Thinking he's dead. And then that's when they change at the rest stop, which, like you said, it is like a
World's
lovely
worst rest stop.
Yeah, it was like nothing there.
I know what, and I gotta tell you, I can remember when they looked like that though.
Mm-hmm.
There was no vending machines, and usually though that like when they showed, at least the lights worked. I can remember stopping at rest stops and lights didn't work, or and there was a pay phone usually,
Yeah.
that didn't work.
Yeah.
So,
But of
anyway.
course they go in and change and all look incredibly refreshed and fabulous. And then the car won't start.
Because that's what you do if you kill somebody.
We don't want evidence. We don't want evidence on us.
Gotcha.
Right? We're trying to get rid of that touch DNA. Then the car won't start and they all start fighting. And I will say
and calling each other terrible names. And that's why I was going to ask you, like, is that a trademark of something? Like, do they really get bitchy with each other a lot?
I would say so. Probably.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not full, like, I mean, I think especially at the end, we're getting into like racial slur territory, and that I think is, but being very bitchy to each other. Yes. Like,
yes.
There's a whole challenge every season on RuPaul's Drag Race that is the reading challenge, where you are supposed to deliver like the best insults to the other queen.
Really?
But it's like done in good fun.
Okay.
It's sort of like a roast, the way that, like, in that spirit.
Oh, okay.
There was one reference that I like had to look up because I heard the name and then I was like, wait, like who is that? When Vita's like, you're leaving me in this car like a Mary Jo Kopechne. And
Oh,
then I was like,
yeah.
wait. And then I looked it up and I was like,
It's
oh my
Kennedy
God, that's the one that Ted Kennedy left in the car in Chappaquiddick. Oh
to
my God.
die. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. But I do think that like that is a
And I
very,
thought that was actually funny.
it was,
The reference. It
it was
was.
funny. That I think that is also like a very drag thing of like these kind of like references, like and
Oh,
being kind of quick with that. I think
mm.
that is very it. Long story short, Chi Chi is like, I'm gonna find a ride, and they're like, she's gonna go get murdered. Okay.
And we have to go rescue
And we have
her.
to go rescue her. But turns out she gets picked up by a nice boy named Bobby Ray in a pickup truck, and they come get the rest of them. They all go to Snydersville, I think it was.
Is it Schneidersville or Snydersville? Because didn't Bobby Ray make a distinction? He said something about, oh, it's Schneider's or Snyder. Maybe I
I
couldn't
think they're
remember.
in Snydersville because I
Snydersville,
feel like we see the sign
the
later.
sign. Yeah.
But yeah, then they go tow their car and like they're gonna stay in this little inn and like it's great. Of course, everybody is looking at them like, who the hell
Golly.
are these people coming into this town? They go to this little hotel. This is when Noxima says, I think the last black person to stay here was Sam Cooke, which did make me laugh.
Well, they said at first that like too, they said, can we have look at a room more hospitable? And they said, oh, she said, oh, this is the presidential suite.
Yes.
And so do you want to go ahead
It's
and tell who the
yes. So this is Stockard Channing as Carol Ann. Her husband Virgil has the like the body shop. He's got the tow truck, and they've got the little inn in town. This town truly looks like the Old West.
yeah, it
Like
really does. Yeah.
it, I expect to hear
Like
like
in the
like people about to meet at high noon
mm-hmm.
to draw pistols and stuff like that. So what this town looks like.
Yeah, you don't see any paved streets or anything like that. It's all
No.
dirt, dusty,
Yeah.
wooden sidewalks.
Wooden, yeah, and like the storefronts, like it truly looks like the Wild
Oh yeah,
West. I
and
feel like it's the same
and
set they use for like if someone told me that like, oh yeah, John Wayne made this movie here, I would be
right,
like, of course he did.
or this is where they shot High Noon with Gary Cooper. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
because none of the
Or
places looked like they'd seen a can of paint in 50 years.
no, not at all. Not it looked it was very stuck in the past, right? It
Yeah,
was not 1995 in this town. Vita, ever the optimist. I think tomorrow is a say something hat day. That's another, I think, quote that sticks
mhm.
out for me. I wish I wore hats because I would say something like that more often.
You
Uh,
should.
or I would get a little sign with like hangers where I would hang my hats that
There you go.
said,
Yeah.
tomorrow is a say something hat day. But yeah, so they have their car, they can fix it, but they don't have the
Uh,
part.
yes.
The part's going to take until Monday. So it's Friday. They got
And
the
that's
weekend.
and if you think about it, 1995, it's Saturday, and he's going to get it on Monday. That's still pretty good.
That is pretty good.
I mean,
For
because he's
2024, have you ever really needed a part for your car?
so you're talking about at that point a 20-year-old car, maybe a 30-year-old car.
In the
Try to get
middle
a
of
part.
nowhere.
Right, exactly. And then there's
He's
no
not in
internet.
Detroit.
Yeah, and maybe UPS. I don't know. Was UPS around? Yeah, I guess they were in
Yeah.
1994. But even still, come on,
Mm.
that's not bad. But you're right. To them, it's a disaster because now they're stuck here.
Yeah, and this is not the place they want to be, right? This does not immediately give a place that would be hospitable to drag queens, but some of the people at least seem to think they're women, but they're just big.
Yeah, yeah.
They're like for women, they're sure strong and big. Like,
They're muscular.
yep, that. They're like exactly. And we do in sort of the cast of characters in this town, there's a lot of famous people from
Yeah.
other things. So Carol Ann, as we said, is Stockard Channing. So
Mm.
you know her, especially if you're a listener to this podcast, as Rizzo from Grease.
I was going to say if you follow us on a regular basis, that's right. She's been in one of the movies we've already reviewed.
Yes, so she's Rizzo from Grease. She's also one of the ants in Practical Magic, which we just learned this week is apparently getting a sequel.
Ooh,
Yeah.
did not know that.
Blythe Danner is one of the townspeople. She owns a little restaurant, or she seems like a sort of a leader in town. She has the gossip about everyone, at least. So Blythe Danner, as Gwyneth Paltrow's mom. She's also the mom in Meet the Parents. That's kind of what I know her best from.
Okay.
I
So
don't know.
I remember her from the '90s, and she was always, well, she did really good work and still does. But yeah,
Yeah.
just a very, very, very talented actress. So
Yes. Arliss Howard is Virgil, who's Carol Ann's husband.
and he's done a lot of things.
Yeah.
Nothing
He's
like a
one of those people
star
that
role, but
is in a lot of things. So he
yeah.
was in like Full Metal Jacket, Moneyball,
Hmm.
Tequila Sunrise, Lost World, Jurassic Park. So he's in a lot of things, but he's not
Hmm.
like he's more kind of character actor type
Yeah, more of
person.
a supporting cast kind of guy.
Mhm.
But yeah, he does work a lot, and you'll recognize his face.
Yes. Myrna, who's the lady who owns a salon, that's Melinda Dillon.
Hmm.
I will say I know her from she's the mom in the Christmas Story.
And she's a mom in Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yes. And she's
Little
also in the
boy.
Muppet movie. And then Bobby Ray is played by Jason London, who's in Dazed and Confused. And a movie
Hmm.
I also referenced, Out Cold, which is
Oh,
the remember I said the movie, like the snowboarding movie that's like based on
oh,
Casablanca?
right, right,
He's the
right,
main
right.
character in that
Oh, I did
movie.
not know that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So,
The other actress, I can't remember her name, I didn't write it down, but she's Ray Finkel's mom from Ace Ventura, the old lady that doesn't talk.
and she was in a lot of things during this time period. I remember seeing her in other movies, but I don't know her movie biography off the top of my head. But
Yeah.
she, yeah,
Alice
because
Drummond is the
yeah,
actor's
she
name.
had done, she's done a lot of things.
Oh, she's a librarian in Ghostbusters also. That's the other
Oh,
big
oh,
thing she
okay.
was in.
Yep, yep, yep,
Yes,
yep,
but in
yep.
my mind, she's always Ray Finkel's mom.
Oh, okay.
When you don't remember when like they go to Ray Finkel's house and like she makes them cookies, then they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, we hate Dan Marino. Laces out, Dan." Anyways, the other thing about the town, Noxie has a great quote. She says, "Who is art directing here, Ma Joad?" I do think that Noxie has some of the best quotes, I think, in the
Oh
movie.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And all the and Wesley does a great job of portraying the character. I
yeah,
think
the delivery I think
delivery of the
is very
lines.
good. We also see, most of the people in town are kind of okay, but there are some roughnecks there, led by Michael Vartan, who are starting to give them a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of trouble. Oh, and the queens also redecorate their room, which is
Oh
very
yeah.
it almost feels like Mary Poppins when they're just like
When they
throwing
throw
fabric
things
at the
and it just
wall and then it
and it
becomes
just sticks and
drapes.
it, yeah,
Yeah.
it becomes a dress or whatever. Yeah.
Right. It felt very like Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Sheriff Dullard/Dollard gets found by the cops.
And by the way, how long was he out? Because it was like,
Right.
he must have been out for like 12 hours.
He has a
So
traumatic brain injury at this
I,
point.
really, I mean,
Take him to he's got a brain bleed. Take him to
and
the hospital.
and and, and which leads us to, though, that he's found by the state police, right? It's the state
Yeah.
troopers.
And he's saying, I was beat up by some girls, some women. And they were like, "You're beat up by a girl?" Or no, he said, "I was beat up by some men." And they're like, "No, we have this like high-heeled shoe. You were beat up by women." And he was like, "No, it was men dressed as women." And
Well, they give him a rough way to go.
yes, yes. And he also says that they're perverts and he's going to go kill them, which feels very relevant to 2024, unfortunately.
I wrote, maybe this movie is more relevant now than it was back in 1995.
That's what I kept thinking. Like every time he was talking, I was like, this is literally things that people say today when they're
Today,
trying to like pass bills to ban drag and like all this kind of stuff. Like people literally say these things today.
I mean, you know, there's feelings I have about the movie. Overall, the movie was fun, and it was funny, but there was some very sad parts about it too. I think,
Hmm.
looking into their lives and so on, about
Yeah.
how terribly lonely
Hmm.
they were, or how, and maybe how sad, sometimes that their lives could be, with nobody to turn to and nobody to understand them, no
Absolutely.
tolerance, no one,
Hmm.
so,
Yeah.
but when he starts looking for them, one of the
That
funniest thing, the
the
list that he
list,
makes, oh my
the
God.
list. I wrote down what was on the
Places
list.
for homos.
Yes. He writes a list in like big cat, like it looked like he wrote it with a crayon almost with
Yeah,
magic
like a big
marker.
black
Yeah.
magic marker. Yeah.
Places for homos, flower shops, ballet schools, flight attendant lounge, restaurants for brunch, which I do feel like is funny because there are still a lot of drag brunches.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I've been to drag brunch before.
Oh, okay.
You go to brunch, have some mimosas, and drag queens perform for you. It's really great.
Oh,
Um,
well, who
Antique
knew?
stores. That was the last. Antique stores was the
Antique
last
stores, yeah.
place on the list. But it looks like a list that a child wrote. Like it's just like
Oh,
big
it's like
letters
big
with
block
the black
letters.
marker. Like
Yeah. And
and he's going. It shows him going. Like he
and
goes to a flower shop.
crossing
He's
them
got
off.
a hand-drawn picture of Vita and he's comparing it to like every guy he sees. It's absurd. Like
It-
that's why it's so funny because it's like
well, in the
I
traffic stop,
oh my God, yeah, holding the thing
the
up.
drawing up.
Oh my God. It is so silly. And I do think that like that's the way I feel about people who are like ultra homophobic like that. Like it's like you seem silly.
Yeah.
And there's a part when he's talking about like how grossed out he is by gay people, but it sounds like he's really into it. He's
It-
like, their big biceps and their hairy chests and their big hands. And it's just like, oh, it sounds
well,
like you're like really into
well,
this.
he's at the bar and he's sitting there talking like this, and then the guy next to him, he's like looking at him like, and he starts moving away from him
Yeah.
because, yeah, he's like, it's almost like he's desiring this.
Yeah.
He's talking about like it's turning me on a little bit, and the other guy at the bar's like, dude,
What?
like
What? It's
what?
yeah.
Yeah, it's like this soliloquy. He's sitting there nursing a drink all by himself. And but anyway, so I'm sorry. So yeah, I thought that was and he's not been in a lot of things, Christopher Penn, but the things that I've seen him in, he was
Yeah.
good in.
Well,
So
he died too.
yeah, he died tragically young. So
Yeah, he died pretty young. So I
yeah,
think that's
so
like for me, it's like this Footloose and Corky Romano are the things that I
yeah, I think
have seen
I
him
know.
in. So anyways, back in the town,
Snydersville.
Snydersville, back in Snydersville. The other piece too, to when the queens decorate that room, they're doing it to the Wonder Woman theme. So it's like the theme when she spins around
Love
and
that.
goes into her costume. So that part's very fun. And the people in town are looking at them like, what the hell is
Really,
going on?
yeah.
And then Blythe Danner, who's the character's name I can't remember. I wrote it down somewhere, but
I,
she
I didn't either.
she's giving them the gossip. Loretta, who's Beth Grant, she's also someone who's in like a million things.
Hmm.
I remember her when we get to Donnie Darko, we'll talk about how she's the lady from Sparkle Motion. Um,
Okay.
but she's a drunk. Clara, who is the lady whose name Alice Drummond, Ray Finkel's mom, she like can't hear, doesn't talk. Uh Jimmy Joe is a nice, I'm using quotes here because this is her word, not mine. He's the nicest colored man she's ever
Mm.
met. And I'm like, this is how I know isn't that 1995 in the town. Did you know, have you heard of Loving versus Virginia, ma'am? But yeah, so they're getting the gossip. Noxima, they all sort of then kind of split off. You can tell kind of who their sort of
Hmm.
project is. Chi Chi is over thinking she's going to like hook up with these roughnecks, but they're going to try to beat her up until Bobby Ray comes to rescue her. I also wrote, this is where I wrote that I hate her makeup.
Oh yeah.
Whose
Yeah,
makeup
because
I
she's
hate, it's like mime paint. It's just
it,
like a pale, almost grayish, just like shellacked on her face.
yeah. The only thing that she has is just like eyeliner,
Yeah, and a
to
little, I think she draws like a little beauty
like
mark,
a beauty mark, right?
and
But
that's it. But yeah, I'm
and
just like, can we get some dimension in the face, please? Like
and I
blush, highlight.
and I hate to say it, but John had the worst teeth.
Yeah,
I mean, just saying, just putting it out
yeah,
there.
yeah,
So
yeah.
just but
It's the truth. Yeah.
yeah,
Meanwhile, like Noxima kind of gets friendly with Clara, who again everybody thinks can't talk, but
and can't hear.
and can't hear.
Hmm.
She
And is
drops a
crazy.
Yeah, she's crazy because like her husband left her basically, but they used to run a movie theater in town.
And he ran off with the projectionist.
Yes. So Noxima, she drops pictures of like a movie star, and Noxima like tracks her down to give it back. And then Noxima just starts talking about Dorothy Dandridge and like can't remember a Dorothy Dandridge movie. And this is when Clara's like, I forget what movie it was, but she fills it in. She fills in
Yeah.
the gap. And then she says, You want to do Lena Horne?
Horn. So yeah, she knew all the movies and everything, and then
Yeah,
I'd never heard Dorothy Dandridge referred to as a classic blacktress
it was
until
great.
Noxzema. Yeah, that was that. I because I wrote that down. So and Dorothy Dandridge was a great actress. So, but anyway, so um,
Yes. Oh, I'll also say the other thing that Noxzema referred to herself as is the Ebony Enchantress earlier in the movie, which I appreciate and is a thing that like drag queens still say. So a few winters ago, there was a drag queen who won the show named Simone who called herself the Ebony
Ebony
Enchantress. So like
Enchantress.
this movie does continue to like have influence
Okay.
in drag. But yeah, like Noxie's hanging with Clara. Vita is trying to bond with Carol Ann, who is
And
obviously being abused.
I was gonna say, so we figure out pretty quickly that Virgil hits her
Yeah.
and abuses her.
She has a shiner. Well, she's crying. And first she
Mm-hmm.
says it's because of the onions. And then she has a shiner and she says like boxes fell on her or something.
Yeah, and Vita quickly
And Vita
sees through
quickly sees
her.
through it. She's like, I don't see any chopped onions anywhere. And then she says something like, I can't even put, Vita's like, oh, put some spices in here. And she's like, oh, no, you can't do that. Like, Virgil doesn't like it. So that is, a bummer. And
Yeah,
Vita is concerned, but Carol Ann is like, leave me alone.
yeah,
Like,
just
mind
yep.
your business. There is also a moment in that scene where Vita says something is TVW, when she's talking about cutting onions and your eyes
Mm-hmm.
water. It is TVW, the very worst. And I was like, I'm gonna start saying that to people. um,
I miss that. So I like that TVW.
TVW, the very worst. Uh, but then, Vita's also bonding with like the daughter, Bobby Lee, not to be
Yeah,
confused with Bobby Ray. And I
which
was like, this is how you know it's country because
which I
everybody goes
think
by two
Noxzema
names.
did confuse Bobby Ray and Bobby Lee.
Yeah.
Bobby Ray's the boy, Bobby Lee's the
Bobby Lee's the
girl.
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 That is country as hell. Everybody
Yeah.
with their two names, Carol Ann, Bobby Ray, Bobby Lee,
Mm-hmm.
et cetera, et
Mm-hmm.
cetera. That's very like where my grandmother's from in Kentucky. Everybody goes by their two names.
Oh yeah. Yep. That's a yeah. It was a thing down in West Virginia. So Carol Ann, Carol Sue, things like that.
Yes. Also the other thing that Noxema says to Clara that I appreciated was like, I don't have a dream. I am not Martin Luther King Jr. I have a plan. Then we see Virgil being abusive directly, and
Yeah.
he's being so gross. He's like, "Oh, do you want to make me mad? Like, do you
Mm-hmm.
want me to hit you?" And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
ugh, gross, because there's a little bit of spice in like the stew or something.
Yeah, I wrote down Virgil needs an ass beating.
Basically, he
Mm-hmm.
eventually like throws it, and like the implication is that he beats her up too,
Yeah.
which is gross.
All of it just, smacks so typical of a small town,
Mm-hmm.
where, and like you said, it doesn't even feel like 1995 in that town. It feels like
Mm-hmm.
1955.
Exactly. Yeah,
the,
and like everybody knows,
yeah, yeah. There's no secret to it, but nobody does anything. Nobody stands
right?
up. Nobody says anything. And then even you feel like the gentleman, the only other grown man is the one that Blythe Danner likes, and I can't remember
Yeah,
his name.
Jimmy Joe.
The one that owns the cafe or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Even you feel like he won't say anything or do anything because that's that's not his place. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It just feels that's what
Mm-hmm.
it felt like to me.
For sure. No, they're all very like mind your business. And certainly Carol Ann is not like inviting help either,
No, but
which
and that
like
was
is
the
typical.
attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the attitude. It was like, oh, this is my problem. I'll deal with it.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be. Or that's that's his right. It's my fault because I made him mad. All
Yeah,
those lame excuses that
for
people used to
sure.
tell
I
themselves.
will continue to shrink myself over and over to fit in this tiny box of what he will allow from me,
Yeah.
which is
It,
not to use any spices in the stew. I can't look the wrong way or say the wrong word or
right. Yeah. Yeah.
all over and over, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until because also the point is like there actually isn't anything you can do right because the problem is him.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. You're
That's
never
what,
going to be able to. Yeah. There's
yeah,
always going to be something wrong.
exactly. And I mean that for people who don't know me, this is like the area I work in. So it is like This is what I hear from people all the time, right? There is I'm walking on eggshells. I don't know what the right thing to say is or the right thing to do is, because something's always going to be wrong.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
Really,
Hmm.
to live your life like that, that's awful.
For sure. I was talking to someone the other day who said that they're not with the person anymore, but they would want her to like know how he was feeling.
Hmm.
But she was like, but if I guess wrong, then he says I'm making an assumption and I'm stupid. And if I say I don't know because I don't want to guess wrong,
Hmm.
then I'm stupid because I don't know. So there was no right answer.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so anyways,
It's.
that's Virgil. He's that,
Hmm.
right? Whether I'm sure she could like look at him the wrong way, she could wear a shirt he didn't like, she could
Right.
whatever,
Yeah.
sneeze too loud and he would be mad about it. So that's the thing. That is an issue that exists within him that he needs to work on. Meanwhile, the queens find out about the event of the season in
Ooh.
Snydersville, the strawberry social, which is where they just sit and eat strawberry pies. And they're like, okay, maybe like we can make something more of this.
Well, they used to have
And
a hollering contest, but some
oh
people didn't
yes.
care for that.
Yes. Yes.
Which I
So
thought was a funny line.
it
So
was, yes. I think Myrna said that she was referring to Blythe Danner, did not
yeah,
care for it.
exactly. Yeah.
But then we find out that Myrna owns
Beauty salon.
the beauty salon. So the queens were
Yeah.
like, oh, let's go.
Hmm.
And it's makeover time.
Well, a day. What was it? The girls need a day in the city. Is that what they how they referred to it? Remember they said
Oh,
what is it?
yes. It's like
Something
a
like
day
that,
with the girls or
or
something.
something like that. Yeah, and they said, "Oh, I don't know what that is. What does that mean? Oh, you go buy things, or you go get your hair done and you get your
Mhm.
makeup done, and then you have then you buy a new outfit, and then you sit around and drink wine or something."
Yeah, basically. So
Yeah.
they basically do that. Blythe Danner and Jimmy Joe do go to town so they can snuggle up and pick up supplies for the
Hmm.
strawberry social. But the rest of them, they get their hair done, they get their makeup done, they go to the little store where there is only denim. But then Noxima invites herself upstairs and finds a bunch of like really cool vintage clothes
Well, at
and
first you
starts
think she's having a heart
screaming.
attack.
Yeah, because you're like, what did she find up there?
I
Because
know
she just
I'm
starts
thinking, is there a
screaming.
dead body up there or something, or
Yes.
it,
And she's like, this is like very excited. And then they all get a makeover. Even the shop boy that works there,
oh
the
my God,
cute kid
who's
with who
this
stuttered
poor stutter?
so bad. But Vita helpfully gives him like Diana Vreeland's memoir because apparently that's going to help him get over his stutter. Although it appeared that it did.
Yeah, towards the end of it, so
Um,
he was able to
and
read it without
they did
stuttering.
dress him as well in a very lovely yellow number
Hmm.
from the 70s. So like a
Yeah,
yellow
leisure suit. It
leisure
was
suit. Okay, I was
yeah,
gonna say leisure suit, but I don't
yeah,
know.
no, yep,
Um,
yep, yep.
yeah, so they're all dressed very fabulously, like Noxima's in fringe. Somebody else tries to take that and she's like, oh no, this
Oh, no,
one's
no, no,
for
no, girl.
me.
That yeah, this is for
This one
me.
is for me.
Although
Uh
I did write Loretta looked like the Bride of Frankenstein with the hair.
she did in the green.
Yeah,
She's
it's
in like
kind of
the
like
green tights
she had
also.
her hair like kind of up,
Oh yeah.
like in the Bride. So
And then they put her in like the green tights and that like she had like bright colored tights on and like
tights
a
on with boots, didn't
yeah,
she?
it was
Yeah.
very like it was a she had a go-go look
Hmm. Like
on.
exactly.
It was
So.
very 60s. But then they're confronted again by these roughnecks led by the actor Michael Vartan before he was in other things like I don't know,
Hmm.
Never Been Kissed. And Noxima has had it. So she goes over to him and says you need to apologize
Hmm.
to everyone. And he's not into it. So she grabs him by the balls and drags him over to make him apologize and then say, when you see a bunch of ladies like this, you will say, good afternoon, ladies. And if it's the evening, then what do you say? And he's like, good evening, ladies. And
By the
then,
way, she also has these big pointy nails,
oh,
just to let you know,
yes,
just to so
big
I'm assuming
hands
that
with
big
long
strong
nails,
hands, yeah, and long nails. So I'm assuming he's getting the full Monty
the
there,
full experience,
Yeah, so
the full drag experience.
yeah.
Some drag queens say if you're not wearing a nail, you're not doing drag. So there you
Okay.
go.
Gotcha.
Uh
Okay.
and then she lets him go and is like, that is how you will speak to us from now on. You also need to go home, take a shower, comb your hair, and come back out here in a clean shirt, because this is an affront to the very delicacy of my nature. And it's great.
And Vita's trying to make excuses like, oh, don't just Noxima's very, very sensitive,
She's very
or what?
sensitive sometimes. She's having a difficult day, whatever.
Yeah. Oh, she had a difficult upbringing or something.
Yes.
It's like,
Yes. Oh yeah, I think, and I think when Loretta wants the same outfit as Noxima, that's when she's like, check yourself, Loretta, before you wreck yourself. Meanwhile, Carol Ann is just watching,
yeah,
and Virgil is being mean to her as usual.
yeah, making snide remarks about the women and so on, about how she'd like to be out there maybe with them and doing stuff. And then you get the feeling, I don't know if he hits her. I get the
Yeah,
feeling that
that was the part where he throws the
the
stew.
stew, yeah. So, and then
Mhm.
you sort of get the feeling, yeah, because it cuts away from that. It doesn't
Yeah,
actually show him
hitting
hitting her,
her,
but you get that
but it is the
implication.
implication. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
And then Vita comes back in there, and Carol Ann is crying, and she says, do you ever not cry honey, do you ever not cry in this room?
in this room, I know it was like, yeah, it was. Again, there was a lot of lines I thought that were really, really good and very well delivered at the time. So,
Yeah. Yeah. But I also think that that was like, they're both very sad people, like you
yeah,
said.
yeah. Both have things that they're dealing with, but it's I felt, and I wrote down, poor Stockard Channing is like, there's nothing she can do right. I wrote that down, and
Mm-hmm.
there's like no escape.
Yeah.
There's no way out for her.
Right. Because it's like this town has like 3 houses in it. They're all
Yeah, I
within
know.
view of each other. Where is
That's
she
what
gonna
you
go?
that's what you wonder. You wonder how anybody makes any money in this town. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's
It
it's
seems
not
like
like,
it just circulates among the 10 people that live there.
right. Yeah, there's no income coming in from the outside. It's not like a tourist spot or anything
Yeah.
like that.
Unless
So,
the only income is coming from Virgil with a tow truck, which
yeah,
also
but
may be part of the reason why she's stuck
well, that could be too, I guess. But how many people drive up and down the highway,
in that area.
in that area? But
Yeah.
oh well. But anyway, so,
But yeah, so Carol Ann's daughter, Bobby Lee, has a crush on Bobby Ray. But we obviously know that Chi Chi already has a little thing with Bobby Ray.
and
So
Bobby Ray has a thing for Chi
Bobby Ray
Chi,
has a thing for Chi Chi. So there's a moment where all the women are on the porch. He comes with flowers, and both,
all dressed up.
yeah, Bobby Lee and Chi Chi are both like, oh, he's coming for me. He comes for Chi Chi. Bobby Lee is very sad. And Vita is upset. Because also Vita's like, now Chi Chi.
Right. You're just
Maybe
leading him down.
you are leading him down. You are leading him on, and you need to be honest with him.
Right.
So
Yeah, because he obviously does not know that she's a man.
yes, he does not know that she is a drag queen or a drag princess. She's not a queen yet.
Right. But
But she does actually eventually kind of come around and say, you know
and
what?
I wrote down too. I said, will Chi Chi do the right thing? I wrote,
Yeah.
because I didn't, because you don't know. I didn't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. And I mean, it does not till later on, because initially she's like, oh no, I'm staying here.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
I'm going to
yeah.
be with Bobby Ray and I'm going to stay here. Another
Hmm.
Noxima great line. Okay, Miss Jennifer Holliday, you're staying. Which, for people who don't get that reference, Jennifer Holliday plays Effie in Dreamgirls. She was like the original Effie on Broadway. So she sings like, I'm telling you, I'm staying. That is what that reference is. But it was an excellent line.
Yeah,
Okay, Miss Jennifer Holliday, I'm staying.
yes, the script was very well done.
Yes. And then Vita, this is when Vita and Chi Chi really get into it, and we're getting into like
Oh,
full racial slurs.
it just it
Uh,
and Noxima keeps saying, "Don't go there,"
and don't go there. Nope.
and they went
Oh,
there.
oh, don't. Oh, no, she went.
She
Okay, don't
went.
go
She
there.
went
Oh,
there.
okay. Um, they're basically, their issue is, you know, Chi Chi is leading this man on. Vita decides she wants to like fix everybody's life, and it's kind of in everybody's business in a way that people don't ask her for. But she's trying to be helpful. Chi Chi just wants love. They're both maybe going about it in ways that aren't the
Yeah,
best.
maybe. And I felt maybe Vita feels like she's trying to help everybody else because she can't help herself.
Right. Yeah, no, I think so. Right.
Do
I
you
think that
think? I
they're
mean, it
they're
was
searching for something they don't have.
right. And Chi Chi, is just looking for somebody to love.
Just love, yeah, because right,
Yeah,
because she
just
probably doesn't have that
to
elsewhere. When
love
we
and
first
to
see
be
her
loved.
when we first see her, she's walking down the street with her wig on a wig head and having shit thrown at her.
Yeah,
So,
and
like,
you
of
got
course
the feeling it was
she's
from the family, I think, or
yeah.
what. Yeah, so
Yeah, and the implication also is that she engages in some sex work.
yeah,
So she doesn't have like love though.
right,
Love.
exactly. Yeah,
And Vita
somebody
also
she
doesn't
wants some.
have Vita
Yeah,
seems to want like a family, right? Like
hmm
that kind of love,
love.
support, acceptance. She
Yes,
does not have. Noxima has like big dreams, but Noxima is like, my business is my business and yours
right,
is
right,
yours.
right. Yeah, so
Um, and then at this point, you can hear that Virgil is beating up Carol Ann.
yeah,
And Noxima is like, nope, mind your
no,
business.
yeah,
Like, you're
don't,
gonna get yourself killed if you try to intervene in this. But Vita's like, I can't sit here and like listen to this happen
yeah,
and not help. So Vita goes, she rescues Carol Ann. She's like, get out of here. The other Noxie and Chi Chi take her.
hmm
And she backhands Virgil, who then hits her back.
uh-huh.
Um, and then we cut away again
Yeah, and
until Virgil is being literally thrown out the door onto the ground by
and I wrote
Vita.
Virgil got his ass beaten.
Yes. Talk about
Yay!
Roadhouse. Talk about
Exactly.
Roadhouse. Here we go.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Also, I wrote, truly, how did these people not know they're drag queens? I
Well,
guess they're very sheltered. The
and remember
people in this
they said, "Oh, there's something we need to tell you about Vita," and it was like, "Oh, Vita works out
Vita works out. Vita works
a
out.
lot."
That purpose because they're like, oh no, yeah, because Caroline's like, oh no, he's gonna kill her. And they're like, we gotta tell you something about Vita. She works out a lot.
A
She's
lot.
very strong.
Yes. Um,
Um, so but yeah, Virgil's thrown out. This is how he eventually meets up with Sheriff Dullard Dollard at the bar. But in the meantime, Chi Chi also then does go on a date with Bobby Ray, and she's trying to tell him the truth, but I think it's a little bit hard and he's not really like getting it.
no, yeah,
So she's like, you know what? She talks to Bobby Lee and is like, girl, you go for it. Chi Chi and Vita make up. All the queens and Carol Ann are drinking wine in her kitchen. Carol Ann has a lovely buzz off the white
yes.
wine. She's happy for the first time we've seen. She seems to be smiling and laughing,
hmm
which has not happened thus far in the time we've seen her. So that's an improvement.
Well,
Um,
again, the bar was set low though for her to have an improved life. So
True.
gee, nobody's hitting me, so it's a good day.
True. Yeah. So, but the queens get Bobby Lee all dressed up um,
Oh God.
to go dance with
And they're watching
Bobby Ray,
Ten
and they're watching the
Commandments
Ten Commandments.
with Ann Baxter, who I wrote was the worst casting in the Ten Commandments besides Edward G. Robinson as Damien the slave master. It's like
I have watched that movie one time. I watched it in theology in college. All
and
I can remember is "Let my people go."
you'll appreciate this, and the reason because our former boss
Hmm.
Michael, I won't say his full name, he and I used to laugh about Edward G. Robinson trying to portray a Jewish person in the Ten Commandments. And he would always imitate, yeah, Moses, what are you going to do about it? Yeah, yeah, come here, you tough guy. It's like,
See?
see, you dirty rat. And, and when they showed the clip of and Ann Baxter, that I remember Michael talked about her costuming.
Hmm.
She was the only person in Egypt that wore a bra. So
But yeah, so they're using Ann Baxter as like she's like the
as the
Pharaoh's wife. Um,
exactly as
as
the
a
model.
she is the blueprint for flirtation.
Hmm
Uh
About how to act around Bobby Ray.
yeah. So they gussy Bobby Lee up and send her out, and she's like got her back to Bobby Ray, who doesn't know who she is at first, and then she's like, "Oh, this old thing." She's doing all of that like a really awkward flirting, but in the end they end up slow dancing. It's very sweet.
It is.
And then everybody, all the other kind of couples, right? Blake Danner and Jimmy Joe, a bunch of other folks. That Michael Vartan, the lead roughneck, dances with asks one of the women to dance. So all these people
I think
are
it's Loretta, isn't it? Doesn't he
I
dance with
think
Loretta?
so. I
Yeah, I
thought
think
so. And
so.
then the kid with the stutter from the store is dancing with somebody. So
Yeah.
everybody's dancing. Oh, Blythe Danner's name is Beatrice. I did write it down.
Oh,
Beatrice.
okay. Beatrice. Okay.
I feel like they don't say it very much, but anyways, um, the queens are all watching from the balcony, and they say, "Sometimes it just takes a fairy."
I wrote the line down, Lindsay. I wrote it down
Me
because
too.
I said sometimes it just takes a fairy. So I
It's
thought
such a good line.
it is because they're looking up there, like looking down upon all this that they've created,
Hmm.
that they've made come about. And I just thought that was, yeah, that was just a great line, So
Yeah.
yeah,
It was great
so
because they are in some ways too like the fairy godmothers
fairy godmothers, yeah,
of
like
the town,
uh-huh,
right? You
touching,
know,
yeah,
wave their wand and
touching
everybody's
each people's
beautiful.
lives, and
Hmm.
everything is, yeah, everything's good. So
Yeah. So meanwhile, Virgil and Sheriff Dollard are putting two and two together and realizing that the queens that the sheriff is looking for are the ones that uh the one is the one they've both been beaten up by
that
the same drag queen,
right, that kicked
essentially.
both of their asses.
Yes. So they're hatching a plan. Meanwhile, Carol Ann also can fix cars. So I'm like, oh girl, you got a skill. You have a marketable skill. Get
Right.
out of
And
here.
and I guess the part miraculously arrived,
Yeah, or she's smarter than
or
Virgil and figures
Virgil,
out a
and
way
knew how to
around
fix it
it.
without, yeah,
Um,
without having the part.
so yeah, that part I was a little unclear on, but whatever.
Well,
We've
yeah, because
learned.
wait a minute, because it's Sunday. Yeah, isn't it Sunday? Because that's
Yeah,
the
I
day of
thought
the
so.
social. Yeah, right.
So
So
maybe she feels like she actually knows more than Virgil, but he didn't like allow her to
right,
be
to
involved.
exercise that
Um,
knowledge.
yeah. So also we learned that she clocked Vita from the beginning.
Yep.
She identified Vita.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, "Oh no, you're just a lady with an Adam's apple." Well,
Mm-hmm.
first she just says Adam's apple, and
Yeah.
Vita's like,
You
"What?"
mean, yeah, because
It's
Vita
like,
says, "Oh, there's something I need to. If we're going to be friends, there's something I need to tell you."
yeah.
What do you mean the Adam's apple?
Hmm. So basically, Caroline has known Vita was a drag queen the whole time, but was just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
We're cool.
Yeah. You're a lady with an Adam's apple.
Exactly. Exactly. She's
Oh, a
fortunate.
lady friend, because
Yes,
she
she's
says, "I don't have any
fortunate.
lady friends."
Yes. I don't have any lady friends, but I feel very fortunate to have a lady friend with an Adam's apple.
Yeah.
Which is great. And then it's time for the strawberry social. All the queens are getting ready in their red. I love this part too because Chi Chi says, "How do I look?" And Noxima said, like the Miami sound machine exploded
God, in that
all
outfit.
over you.
I know.
With the like the hat. Ooh,
Oh,
just the whole thing.
the whole thing. So, and everybody's in red.
Yes, yes, it's the
Well,
whole
that's the
deal for
theme
the
of the
town.
party. I forgot that
Yes.
they had to
The
come
the queens
red
offered a
and
theme, red and wild,
mm-hmm,
on the topic of strawberries.
strawberries. So,
So, but then the sheriff arrives with a gun
mm-hmm.
and demands the drag queen. He's calling them freaks. He's calling them weirdos. He's calling them boys in dresses. Again, like watch like I don't know, like testimony for like in a state house where they're having a Bill of the Band drag, and it's like
The
his
same
dialogue
thing.
is
Mm-hmm.
is what is being said. Um, and then all the people of the town come out in red and they have their like I am Spartacus moment.
I, yeah, I thought that was, yeah, that was pretty cool. Where everybody, oh, I'm the drag queen.
Yeah. So like Carol Ann comes out wearing this like red veil, and they pull it up. I'm the drag queen. I'm the drag queen. I love when Clara comes up and he's like, "You're a drag queen?" And she goes, "Nothing this pretty could be real."
And then is she the one that says, "Now give me my shoe," or somebody says, "Now
Oh,
give me
one
back
of
my
them,
shoe"?
I think that might be Carol Ann that said that
Carol Ann,
first,
yeah,
or Loretta. Maybe it was
maybe, but
Loretta.
yeah,
But
yeah,
one of them says, "Give me back my
my
shoe."
shoe, yeah.
And they're basically like running him off. And he's like, "You have no idea how dangerous these people really are," which again, very 2024 rhetoric.
Mm-hmm,
Because it's like
mm-hmm.
also like, what are these drag queens gonna do?
Here we are 30 years later,
And it's still like that is
we're still having these
the same talking
conversations.
points. The same
Yeah,
talking points. Like,
come on,
update,
people. Yeah,
please. If
yeah.
you're gonna be hateful, you have to generate something new, please. But yeah, they run him off. which is great.
Yeah.
But then Virgil is still there. And
Mm.
Carol Ann, I love this moment because she doesn't even have to say anything,
Oh,
right?
I
She
know.
just she just walks up to him and kind of smiles. And he kind of smiles at her and he just walks away.
And he gets in his truck
He gets in his truck,
and
drives away.
yep, he's out. So, and I
Yeah,
wrote just as a acknowledgement to Stalker Channing. Is there anything she can't do?
I love her. She's so good.
She is. I mean, from Grease to and I loved her in West Wing as the
Hmm.
president's wife. She was, she's tough. But she can be vulnerable. She's funny. She
Yeah.
can be serious. She could be, badass. But just yeah, I really like her as an actor.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I agree. There's a movie, and I think it might be on my list at some point because it's another one that I discovered from like watching random stuff on Showtime. She's in a movie called Jack, which is from the 2000s. It had Anton Yelchin.
yeah.
But no, it's about a boy named Jack who's like a teenager played by Anton Yelchin, whose parents get divorced because his dad is gay. And Stalker Channing is the mom.
Oh, I don't know
And
that movie.
she's really good at it. It again,
Oh,
it's one of those ones that I had stumbled across like randomly. And it was just like I accidentally watched it and then I was like, oh, I like this. So I watched the whole thing. But
well, she's in the movie with what's the one where Will Smith plays the character where he's supposed to be Harry Belafonte's son or something like that.
oh,
And
6 Degrees of Separation.
6 Degrees of
That's the movie.
Separation.
I think in his memoir, he said that he like fell in love with her in real life because his like character was in love with her. So
Oh, oh,
he was like in too method. So he like
okay,
truly fell in love with Stockard Channing. And I was like, who among us would not?
exactly.
So, but
So, oh
anyways, I
yeah.
love that moment between her and Virgil because I think
Hmm.
it is just like
It's the unspoken thing that things
it
have
is,
changed.
yeah, things that is exactly what I wrote. I think a sign things are not the same. Like
Yeah,
this is not it
right.
anymore.
Yeah, it's not going to go back to the way it
We have
was.
sort of crossed the threshold here and
Right.
like,
And
no.
he knew he couldn't stay because he couldn't change.
Yeah,
Don't you? I mean, that's the
I
feeling
think
I got
so.
because I wrote he would rather run away than try to work it out.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because he couldn't change his. She might be amicable to that, but maybe not after all the abuse she put
Yeah.
into hands of. But he knew it was better
Yeah.
for him to just
He
go.
knew if I am gonna show back up here, I need to show up different.
Hmm.
And right now he at the very least at that moment, he's not there.
He's not
So
different, right? Exactly. He's still
I
the
need to
same
go.
Virgil. Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. So we get a triumphant oh, this is where also the queens were hiding. That's the best. They were hiding like
That was fabulous. It was like it because and yeah, because they were not going to come out and like
not at
I guess they
all.
weren't
Well,
going to get
because
shot.
they're used to like like they're like,
Y-
yeah, this is he will kill us.
Yeah, yeah.
Like throughout the movie, they have expressed fear that they will be
Hmm.
killed. So it's like we're taking this serious. There's a man with a
Yeah.
gun demanding me to absolutely not. I'm not coming outside.
Great hiding places, by the way.
Oh my
Did
god,
not.
their hiding is great. So first of all, you see John Leguizamo, Chi is hanging on the back of the door, like by her hands.
Yeah.
Vita has fully ensconced herself behind a curtain, and Noxie is fully under the bed, like
Under the
lifts
bed.
up the bed to get
Right.
out.
That was the other thing. Yeah. And it was a metal frame bed. It was like
Yes,
pushed
just
up this
like
bed.
bench pressed it
I
to
know,
get
like
up.
bench pressed this bed and got up and like, just sort of dusted herself off. And,
Yeah.
yeah, that was great. Yeah.
But
So, and then they're overcome, which that everybody was standing up for them,
yeah, because
even the
it's
young tough guys.
yeah, they're like, I'm a drag queen. I'm a
Yeah,
drag queen. It's
yeah.
great. And they're really touched by that. And I think I love that part. It is really because
Hmm.
it is like not, I mean, unfortunately, and I think sometimes even now, like not their default experience.
No, no, that people would come to their not only their defense, but also just stand up and say, no, you're not going to hurt
Hmm.
him. You're going to hurt me. You have to hurt me first.
Right,
Not you
right.
shouldn't be hurting them. It's like
We are like in community with them.
exactly. Yeah.
We are the same.
You
Like
got to
we
go
are with
through
them.
us to
Hmm.
get to them. If that's
Right.
if that's what your end game is.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, not only to like stand with them, but to like put themselves in front of them
Exactly. Yeah.
in a protective way. But yeah,
Hmm.
so the queens are like, wow, like really, this is a sign to us that we can like kind of take chances, right?
Yeah.
And see what
Yeah.
happens. So they all have their dreams. Noxima wants to take on Hollywood. I don't have to like wait for people to come find me. I'm gonna go like make my own
Right.
opportunities. Vita wants to confront her family
Hmm.
and be like, you don't have to like
I
approve, but
don't want your money. I want your acceptance.
right, you don't have to approve of me, but you need to accept
Accept
me.
me. Yeah.
And then Chi-Chi just wants to find love and the
Yeah.
correct color of foundation, to which I wrote in all caps, please, because it looked very bad.
Well,
It looked,
at least Chi Chi knew it looked bad.
I
So
love self-awareness. We stand a self-aware queen.
exactly. So
And I do think at this point they have dubbed her a queen because we've gone through
well,
all the steps. Like
it was
I forget all the steps. Step 3 was giving up Bobby Ray
Bobby
for Bobby
Ray,
Lee.
right? It was, and because even Noxzema said, "Oh, step 3, what was it? Doing the right thing, or
Yes.
making
Or
for love's sake, or whatever."
yeah, doing something for other people or
Yeah.
something.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. So,
Then
so
there's another fun line too. Sheriff Dullard Dollard is out on the outskirts, still ranting and raving about these queens. There's another sort of scruffy looking gentleman by him,
oh
and he's like,
God,
"These perverts that found this is not what the founding fathers intended." Which again, like, I could find someone saying that like today.
I could
He's
probably
like,
name 2 of them. So,
right. This is
mhm.
not what the founding fathers intended. And that guy says, well, the founding fathers had some fabulous wigs. And I was like, yeah,
I was kind of hoping
yes,
the old guy would be somebody, though, like a
I
really well-known
know.
actor, that was like stepping in just to deliver
Right.
the line,
I
somebody
know.
iconic. So, but it
I
wasn't.
know.
Well, or even somebody like old school, like Kirk Douglas or somebody
Oh,
like that,
yeah.
like being, somebody from old Hollywood where, that sort of thing. Oh, that didn't go,
Yeah.
or that
I
didn't
think it would be
play.
cool if it was that, or if it was like someone who is like very obviously like a drag queen out of
Oh,
drag
yeah.
doing
And not
that.
in drag. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been
Yeah.
funny. Yeah.
Right, like if it was Divine, like not in
Oh, yeah.
drag,
That would have been
or
funny.
even John Waters, right? Like John Waters didn't do drag, obviously, but like he's a
No, but
recognizable person
yeah, come on now. But yeah,
who
so,
obviously cavorted with many drag queens.
well, he made one
So
of them
yeah.
a star. So,
Well, yes.
you know,
Rest in peace to Baltimore icon Divine.
yes, very
Um,
much so.
but yeah, so then it's time for the strawberry social. It's a hoot and a half. Uh
Hmm.
Everybody is just dancing. The queens are strutting and voguing on the table, catwalking, all of
I was
this.
going to say doing their very best. Longest picnic table in the world, by the way.
There weren't that many people in town.
I know. And
It's like they were all going to sit on one side like the Last Supper.
well, it was, and then it was like, I thought, well, how many people are going to be there? Because, and then, of course, you don't know because there's tablecloths. I don't know if it's one big long table or several tables, but
Mhm.
it was like 40 feet long. It's like, gee whiz. I
Everybody,
don't
how
think,
many pies did they make?
and where did they get the strawberries?
That's true. That's a good question.
You know,
It doesn't appear that they were in a strawberry grown climate.
I didn't even see a grocery store.
No,
So
maybe that's why Blythe Danner and Jimmy Joe had to go to town. They had to go get all the
maybe, yeah,
strawberries.
maybe.
But yeah, so strawberry social happens, and then it's time for the queens to leave. I love Vita's advice to
Hmm.
Bobby Lee: believe in yourself, imagine good things, and moisturize.
Cannot
Advice we
st-
should all take, really.
exactly. Cannot stress that enough.
I'm gonna put it
Moisturize.
on a sign.
Okay.
I should hang them in my bathroom. That would be great.
That and TVW,
Yes, the very worst.
the very worst. And just let
Um,
people figure out what it is.
exactly.
Maybe that'll be my next tattoo.
Yeah, there we go. I'll start using that at work, and
Oh
people will
yeah.
think it's another government acronym.
Well, yeah.
Figure it
TVW.
out.
Hmm. What do you
Um,
think, Jim? TVW.
TVW. Yeah. So, but it's sweet, the queens, time for the queens to leave, but they've all formed like really good bonds with people, right? Like
Hmm.
all the town loves them. They love them back, right? Noxima is super tight with Clara. Chi Chi has her thing with Bobby Ray, but also now Bobby Lee. And some of the other people. Vita, obviously, I think formed the biggest bond with Carol Ann, and they have a really heartfelt goodbye.
Well, and she asked Carol Ann to come with him.
Yes, she says, "Come with you." She's like, "No, I gotta stay here with my girls." She has daughters,
Yeah,
who are children. Allegedly, there's a school there. Okay,
I
um,
guess.
that looks like a town that has like a one-room schoolhouse,
Hmm.
but whatever. Carol Ann's not coming, but she does say, "I love you, Vita Boheme." To which Vita says, "I have waited like my whole life to hear someone say those words with that name,"
Yeah,
which was so nice.
it
And
was.
Vita gives her the Julie Newmar picture, which Carol Ann says, like, "Oh, Julie Newmar is the most beautiful woman," like the exact same thing that Vita said at the beginning of the movie,
Right.
when she first got it. And she was like, "Yes, exactly. My thoughts exactly." So
Well,
they are.
and Stockard really pays her a compliment because she says, "I don't see you as a man, and I don't see you as a woman. I see you as an angel."
To which Vita says, "I think that's healthy."
Yeah,
But it is such a sweet thing. It is such a
it
sweet
is.
thing.
Yeah, you can tell that. Well, both very very good actors.
Hmm.
Bring giving you that feeling that there was a real true bond there,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it wasn't about a man, a woman, a woman, a woman. It's just two friends. It was
Exactly.
yeah. So
Yeah. Two people who care about each other.
exactly. Yeah.
And one person happens to just like wear a lot of makeup and wigs all the time. Like,
Mhm,
okay,
yeah, yeah,
great.
and looks like Julie Andrews,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
And talks like her too. And
Yeah,
apparently also has Mary Poppins powers to decorate a hotel room. Well, the movie ends when they go to the Drag Queen of America pageant in Hollywood. And Chi-Chi wins, even though technically maybe she was like a wild card entrant because
yeah,
I
I
was
don't
like,
know how
she's
she
technically not in this. I thought she
not
wasn't
in the
in the
pageant,
pageant,
but,
but she
but
wins, and her makeup looks much better.
much
Her
better,
makeup and outfit.
and her
Oh,
hair's not that
oh yeah.
wild, she's got it's almost like,
Yes.
and I can't think Rita
Um,
Moreno
Rita Moreno.
has
Yeah.
the short
Rita
little
Moreno, yeah, as
haircut, uh,
Anita.
Anita,
Anita.
as almost like the little pixie haircut.
Yeah, it was sort of like her mixed with like a Betty Boop.
Yeah, but yeah, looked much better, so.
Yes, her makeup was much better. So just know if you're watching this movie and you find her makeup painful as I did, it does get better. It's not perfect, but it does get
Yeah,
much better.
and yeah,
And the
we
outfit looks much better at the end too.
yeah, and we assumed that this it was all done for a purpose to show her maturity as a drag queen.
Yes, she truly becomes a drag queen at the
Right.
end, right?
Yes.
Because she wins. And the award, the crown, is
Is
presented by Julie
Julie
Newmar
Newmar,
herself.
who still
Thanks for
looked
everything.
fabulous.
She looked great.
She did. She really did. I mean, you could tell she was older and stuff, but I mean, she
Mhm.
still had, that. Oh, she was, yeah,
She looked
just
great. Like she had
striking
her
looking.
hair like teased and beautiful and
Yeah, but
everything.
she always had such great facial structure. She
Hmm.
just yeah
Hmm.
she was tall. I think she was.
Yeah, she looked
So
pretty tall.
they
So,
called her statuesque. So
well, there you go.
yeah. So but yeah. If you ever for as a teenager, no, even not even a teenager watching the Batman TV show, Julie
Mhm.
Newmar cut quite a figure in the
Mm,
Catwoman suit.
I'm sure. Oh yeah,
Just
especially in
saying.
that. So yeah, that's kind of what happens in Tu Wong Fu.
Yeah.
I think for me, like I said, I just like love drag. It makes me very happy. So seeing a movie where like the main characters are drag queens is just happy to me. It also reminds me there's a show that's a real show now. It's a reality show called We're Here. It's an HBO show, so it comes on HBO and it's on Max to stream. I definitely recommend to everyone. But so the first three seasons, it was three drag queens from RuPaul, Bob the drag queen, Shangela, and Eureka O'Hara. And then the last season, it was four different queens who had also been on RuPaul's Drag Race: Latrice Royale, Sasha Velour, Priyanka, and Jade Essence Hall. And basically, what happens is they go to like a small town, and they are like matched up with people. So usually they each have a person who will be there. They call them like their drag child. So like in drag, like the person that like first puts you in drag is your drag mother. So then
Oh,
you're like
okay.
their drag child, drag daughter.
Mhm.
So and a lot of times there are people who, they might be, and they go to like tiny places, right? They go
Oh,
to
like
like
small towns.
Evansville, Indiana was
Okay.
one, for example.
Hmm.
They went to like Branson, Missouri one time. That one I was a little worried about them. But and some in these places, especially like the season that just ended, are hostile,
Really?
like actively hostile. Like the season that just ended because it's now. So like
Hmm.
they're doing things in places where people are trying to ban drag.
Okay.
So this season they only went to two places, but they did like multiple episodes in each place. So they did one, they were in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and then they were in Tulsa and Bartlesville, Oklahoma. So
Okay.
Bartlesville's like right outside of Tulsa, and Murfreesboro is close to Nashville.
Yeah.
But so they go and they're connected with people, and sometimes the people are like members of the queer community, so it's like a gay person who like really doesn't feel comfortable, or it's like a person that is comfortable but is like people are kind of pushing back on them, or maybe it's like a straight person who's like an ally, right? Like there was a guy on this season who is like he's gone viral because he's like a big like gruff Oklahoma big beard, looks like he's in ZZ Top, like, but he has a gay son and he just posts videos about how much he loves his gay son. So he's a
Okay.
guy that you would look at and be like, this dude would not be cool
But
as having
he
a gay
is.
son, but he's so affirming and like he's like become famous because of that. So like he gets in drag.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the object of each episode is that they do a drag show. So they put
Okay.
these people in drag and they do a drag show. And for some of them, it is so like I don't know, it's like the first time they have like been able to like be open or like be themselves or so
Right.
it's a really like emotional show. Like I
Sounds like it.
love it. It makes me cry regularly. Like they did one in Selma, Alabama, for example. And there was like a black trans woman there. And she's like, okay, so this is a place that's like a symbol of the civil rights movement, but it's also a place that's like actively hostile to
Sure.
like who I
And,
am.
and oppressive. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like a place that represents both like freedom and like oppression for me. And just like seeing those people be able to like step out and drag and like just kind of own it
Yeah.
is really nice. And that's sort of what like watching this movie now, like having watched We're Here, it's
Mm-hmm.
like this almost feels like an episode of that, right? Some like drag queens come to a small town and kind of like transform people.
And maybe make them at least aware or more accepting of they're not out to convert everyone or to try to
Right.
change people, or maybe change them for the better,
Yeah,
but
just like be
but
open.
yeah, just be more accepting, be more tolerant, be more respectful, be more
Yeah,
understanding. So that's what I
right.
wrote down. There's a lot of messages, I think, in the movie besides it being I thought it was a fun movie. It
It's
was.
very it's funny. It makes me laugh every time.
Oh yeah, but yeah, there's I think there are a little bit maybe more of a message in there for
Mhm.
those, like you said, Dullard's funny, but he's also scary
Yeah.
because like you
He's
said,
scary because that's real.
that's real. That's how a lot of people think, unfortunately. Still to and like you said, it's 30 years later, and we still have that rhetoric
Yeah.
going
And
on.
it's like he's scared. He feels that like for what? Like
Just
that's the
be
thing that I always wonder too. Like it's like obviously like as I said, I love drag. I like feel very passionately positively about drag, about like the whole like LGBTQ plus community. Like I got to go to like the big Pride parade in New York a couple of years ago and it was the best.
uh-huh.
But I'm going to Pride in Maryland this weekend. Like it's going to be great. So I cannot like my brain can't compute the
The
like the hostility,
Yeah.
the fear, the hatred, whatever like people identify with. It doesn't like penetrate my brain. Like I don't
And
get
that's a
it.
good thing, I think. I grew up in West Virginia, and with that attitude pervasive, I think, not only to just towards a lot of minorities and so on and so forth. And as I've gotten older, I still see some of that, even in
Hmm.
people younger than me. And that's what
Yeah.
I always think to myself, that that was maybe the majority of people thought that way 40, 50 years ago, 60 years ago. But why do you still feel that way?
Yeah.
Why is it?
And listen, I think, there is a level of discomfort with like types of people you're not familiar with. I think that that is a natural human response, but I think that you don't have to lean into like the negative of it, right? You can just
No.
be curious, right?
Yeah,
Like
well, or just open and tolerant of it.
exactly. I think, and that's the thing too, like when I watch We're Here, like they do on like this season, last season, because they're in places that have a lot of hostility, like they try to engage people that are like
Hmm.
anti-drag and they try are just like, what is, like where is this coming from?
Right.
And the
Yeah.
people either like they're like, oh, well, I've never actually seen a drag show. So they're like,
Right.
well, why are
Or
you
never,
writing a
or never.
law to say that it's inappropriate if you've never been to a drag show? Like, how can you pass judgment? Or like they're just, some of them are just like not trying to listen at all. But that's the part that's crazy. It's like, so you have no idea what this actually is, but you have formed a judgment. And
Right.
are not only you formed an individual judgment, but you're trying to pass legislation
Yeah.
to
To
control this.
yeah.
Yeah, okay,
And then
land of the free.
it's not like you're okay, we're doing human sacrifices.
Right.
Okay, that's not a good thing. Okay, that
It's a man in a dress and some makeup
yeah,
doing
okay.
a lip sync number.
Right. So
Guess what? If you would go and watch, you would probably enjoy yourself.
I remember reading or seeing something on TV, and I forget what it was. And then so I'm maybe, but it was about something like this about it was about people in drag reading to children
Hmm.
at schools or whatever, and then
Yeah.
somebody saying that shouldn't be. We're promoting this. We're promoting that. And they asked somebody, I forget, on the street or something, how do you feel about this? He said, look, as long as they're not shooting my kid while he's in school, I don't care. He goes, if they're reading a book and the kids seem to be enjoying it, what do I care? What do they look like?
Exactly.
And I thought that's the right answer. That's the answer.
There it is.
It wasn't like he said, I don't think it's a good idea or I don't care for it. He just said, as long as they're not hurting my child.
Hmm.
And I don't think they're hurting them by reading to them.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. It's a book, right?
and it
It's
wasn't
someone
even
in a
like,
costume
yeah,
reading a book.
yeah. What would be the difference between that and somebody dressed up like Snow White?
Right. You take your kids to Disney World.
Yeah, reading to them or being, portraying that,
Hmm.
whatever. So, or somebody
Exactly.
dressed as Goofy. You think what it's better for them to believe that there's a 6 foot dog that talks?
Right. Right, right. Yeah, it's just
Just saying.
I think this movie just touches on that though. It's just like,
Yeah,
you can just be like in an unfamiliar space. And also, you know what? I think the drag queens judged the town too, right? When they
well,
got there.
it worked
And
both
to some
ways.
extent it's self-preservation
Yeah,
because, you do if you're in a
it,
vulnerable person, you got to worry about that.
it's like
But
yeah, it's like a puppy who's been hit, and when
mhm,
someone raises their hand, that's what they think is going to happen. So
exactly.
so instead of raising their hand to pet them,
Mhm.
which was yeah, it's
is
yeah,
is how it ended up, right? The queens are
right.
like, this is not going to be a place that's welcoming to us. Let's just lay
Mhm.
low and
Well,
get the hell out
you
of
get
here
the
when our
hell out of
car is
Dodge.
fixed. But then
Yeah.
it turns out it's like, oh wow, these are like really like warm, kind people that we connect with, right? Like Noxima connects with Clara about movies, and Vita can connect with like Bobby Lee about like, being confident and like a woman and like taking care of yourself and like all this kind of stuff. So it's great. I
It
just
yeah, it is. Yeah, you don't have to say, "Oh, now I'm gonna start dressing in drag." You can say like, like, "Oh, we've got something in common," or we got
Mhm.
some interest, Like I said, if Vita came up to me and said, "Oh, I think Julie Newmar is just great," and I'd say, "Right on."
Agreed.
Yeah, exactly. Number one Catwoman. So, and what else, So, by the way, love
Exactly.
the car.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Um, yeah, no. If I could,
So,
I would love talking to a drag queen. I haven't been to a drag brunch in a while. I will say, people, you go to a drag show, you go to drag brunch, tip your queens well.
oh, okay. All right. Didn't know that was a thing.
Yes,
So, all
yes, you got
right.
to bring dollars.
Okay.
And,
Well, no,
when
I
they're
didn't even know there
performing.
was drag brunches. So, like I
Oh
said,
yeah.
I did. So,
It's
yeah.
great. It's a fun thing, it's you get a meal and a show,
Well, you
basically.
you you gotta keep me posted then.
For
So,
sure. For sure.
okay.
I think they're very fun. Super like this is the other thing too. I'll talk a little bit more about like the who made the movie and get off my drag queen soapbox. But like drag to me, it's like requires so much talent. Cause you gotta a lot of drag queens can sew because
Hmm.
they make or alter their own clothes. A lot of drag queens style their own wigs. Some don't. But doing your own makeup and doing your own makeup in a way that like fully transforms your face
Hmm.
is bananas because I can't do that. um, you know, uh, dancing, lip syncing. Some people can sing. Some people can like do tricks and flips and dips in heels. By the way,
Right.
walking in heels is like really the peak of my abilities these days. I used to be able to run, but I tore my Achilles, so
Oh,
things
okay.
happen.
No, yeah.
Um, but I couldn't do everything drag queens do. So I think, especially if you go to a drag brunch, you see people are doing splits, flips,
Gosh.
dips, spins, all this,
Hmm.
and like delivering a lip sync that is like very fun. So I think, you have to be an entertainer. Drag queens like host their shows. So you have to be like charismatic, right? You got to come up with a good name. That's
Yeah.
another piece of it.
Yeah.
Those are the people that kind of stick, right? RuPaul is lucky to have just been named RuPaul.
Yeah. Because, you got to go a long way to beat Rachel Tensions.
It's such a good name. It's such a good name. I do still love a mandatory meeting though. I thought that was very
That's
clever.
pretty, yeah, that is
Um,
good too. Yeah. So,
but yeah, like it's I just think drag is like so fun. It's just like basically like all the arts that you could love in like one person. Because some drag queens are like really funny too, right? They can
mhm.
act. Some drag queens can sing. It's just like all these different like
Yeah, just
skill
they're
sets.
just like any other performer.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. They
It's art.
It's
Drag
an art.
is
Yeah. So
art.
with the additional layer of that as well. So like
Hmm.
you said, yeah, it is when I watched the movie and saw some of the the real ones at the beginning, not the main characters and so on and so forth, but yeah, you sit there and you think how much creativity, how much time and effort it takes to put into that. And and when they started explaining about, like, you could just not do that and then not bother with the ridicule
Hmm.
the hatred, and
Hmm.
dislike and stuff. But if you feel that strongly about it that you have to, you cannot not do it.
Hmm.
What's that say about it? How strong of a person you are?
Right. For
So,
sure.
you know,
I just love it. I just think also it's just like it feels freeing to me because I think that like sometimes the ideas of like gender feel very oppressive to everybody, right? Like a man has to be this and a woman has to be this. And I think sometimes it's fun to just be like, and what if we just like flip that, right? What if we just turn
yeah.
that on its head
Hmm.
and just like, I'm a man and I'm going to be in a dress and that's what we're going to do,
Well,
and I'm going to look great doing it.
the Scots wear kilts all the time and nobody ever says anything bad
Exactly.
about that.
As that
Or
man said, the founding fathers wore
all wore
fabulous
wigs,
wigs
were
and like
fabulous wigs.
silk long jackets, right? All the
Oh,
ancient Romans
well,
were in togas.
they had stockings,
Hmm.
you
And the
know, the
little buckle heel shoes.
hmm So
So
yeah,
I think it right. I think that's all the piece of it too. The idea of like a man should wear this and a woman should wear this is not like a static thing, right? It's
no,
changed over time.
yeah,
I think as we talked about like 70s fashion, men were wearing like deep V shirts and short shorts and crop tops and
oh
bell
yeah,
bottoms. So
yep,
like, but sometimes if people would do that now, people are like, oh my God, why are you wearing
oh
women's clothes?
oh
Like,
right, exactly, yeah, or platform shoes. I wore platform
exactly.
shoes, yeah.
That's a
That's all you could
yes.
buy, unless you were like a 50-year-old man, and then you bought the shoes that I wear now. But yeah, we wore, as a
Yeah.
young guy, my
Right.
teens and early
It's
20s.
it is it just that is what it is. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that it's great. And I will just say the last thing about drag, and this I think rings true for all the people in the town in Snydersville. RuPaul says drag doesn't change who you are, it reveals who you are.
Oh,
And I think that's what it did for all the people in the town.
I think you're right. Yeah, I like that. So
Yes. So RuPaul has a lot of great quotes. Also, we're all born naked and the rest is drag. So to some extent, we're all in drag, right? It's all a
we're
performance.
all wearing some sort of costume. Don't
Yes.
you think? It
Hmm.
just depends on what type of costume we select.
Yes, exactly. So,
So
just to sort of wrap it up, I guess
yeah.
the movie was directed by Beeban Kidron, who's a British director. She's a
Mm.
British woman. The only other like major thing that I knew of that from her kind of credits was she directed the second Bridget Jones movie. So Bridget Jones, The Edge of
Oh
Reason, where she goes to like Thailand and goes to prison. She
yeah.
directed that. She also directed more recently, she directed a movie called Victoria and Abdul, where Judi Dench plays Queen Victoria, and it's about her like
Oh,
employee slash friend
yeah,
Abdul,
yeah,
who's like an
yeah.
Indian guy. She directed
I didn't
that.
see the movie, but I'd seen
Yeah. I'd heard of it.
yeah, I had
She's
heard of it.
also a member of the House of Lords. So
Oh,
she was made a
good for
baron.
her.
She was made a baroness and is a member of the House of Lords in
Outstanding.
Parliament.
You rock.
Um, I guess because so she's an advocate for children's rights in the digital world and like online safety and privacy. So I think
Good
maybe
for
some of
her.
that activist work got her
Yeah.
that got her styled as Baroness Beeben Kidron.
Ooh, nice.
So
Yeah.
she's doing big things. Um,
Outstanding.
the writer was Douglas Carter Bean, who is he's a playwright and he's written the book for different musicals
Oh,
also.
oh, okay.
So he actually originally envisioned this as a play, but then he was like, how am I going to get the car on stage?
Good point.
So that's why they made it a movie.
Car was a
But
big part of it.
yes. So he wrote on the Sister Act musical. He wrote the book for when they made Xanadu a stage musical in 2007. He wrote that. When they brought Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella to Broadway in 2013, he wrote the book.
Well, it's
This is the
still
only movie he
that's a
wrote.
good body of work. Oh, this is
Yeah.
the only movie he wrote?
Yeah. So the rest of his work is all really Broadway and off Broadway.
Well, I could, I could see that.
But he's been like Tony nominated. I will also say this movie, Patrick Swayze was nominated for a Golden Globe, as was John Leguizamo.
I was just going to say, I wrote down that both Patrick and John were nominated for Golden Globes. Patrick
Hmm.
for lead, and then
Hmm.
supporting for John. So,
Yeah.
and I thought both of them were, I don't know who the other nominees were at the time, but I thought both of the performances were worthy of that.
Yeah.
So, and
Agreed.
good for Patrick, and good for Wesley and John for taking on the roles.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyways, I think it's interesting to me, like them getting cast though, because John Leguizamo and Wesley Snipes, like the parts were theirs.
Oh,
Patrick
okay.
Swayze, there were other people considered.
Oh, okay.
So,
So he was not the first choice.
correct. So let me go. So I think just hearing how the movie was put together, I think was interesting to me. So like
Mm.
the writer Douglas Carter Bean, first of all, he wrote it. He was going to write a stage play, but then he was like, okay, a car on stage might not work. There was an anti-gay propaganda film called The Gay Agenda. And there's a scene where they show drag queens going through a town, and the narrator is warning viewers that these people will take over their town. And he thought, well, that would be fun. So that's how like the
That's the
idea
premise. That's how he got the idea
was
for the movie.
born. So the script went to Amblin Entertainment, which like Steven Spielberg was
Yeah.
there. And so Steven Spielberg read it and was like, I love this. He had Robin Williams read it. And Robin Williams expressed interest in a possible role, but didn't want to distract from the three leads. So that's why he's a small cameo at the beginning. A bunch of male directors passed on directing this once it went into production. And
Gee.
then the director, Beeben Kidron, she begged Steven Spielberg to let her do it, and he accepted. They wanted to change the title of it to Ladies' Night or She's a Lady, but they kept the title. Wong Fu is supposed to be a metaphor for God, because you have to thank God for everything. You have to be
Okay.
grateful for life. You have to just stop where you are and say thank you for everything. And apparently there was a scene where they gave more context, but that was cut out. But I think it's like fine without it. I think it's kind of cool
No,
to just
yeah,
have
it
it be like
works.
when they're like, who's Wong Fu? And they're like, I don't know.
I don't know.
Somebody she knew very well, I guess.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice. So Wesley Snipes and, like I said, John Leguizamo were immediate. Chi-Chi was written specifically for John Leguizamo.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So the people considered for Vita: Robert Downey Jr. It's so interesting to think about these people. Robert Downey Jr., which is like this is when Robert Downey Jr. was struggling.
Yeah,
So
I
I
was going
think
to say this was he was in his low period at this
yeah,
time.
Billy Baldwin,
Okay,
Gary Oldman,
I could see that.
Matthew Broderick,
Couldn't see that.
James Spader,
Maybe, yeah, young James Spader. Yeah, 30 years ago.
John Cusack,
Yeah,
Mel Gibson.
no,
I cannot imagine Mel Gibson saying yes to this.
I couldn't either. I couldn't
Mel
even
Gibson
imagine
does
him.
not strike me as an accepting, open person. Sorry.
No.
Although, he was just wearing a kilt in Braveheart.
Yeah.
Robert Sean Leonard, who I could see doing it.
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe,
I
who
could
would have
actually
been an uglier woman than Wesley Snipes.
who would have been, yes, exactly. But I could see Willem pulling it off acting wise. I could see that. But you're right. It would have been a really tough sell.
These are so interesting. John Turturro, I think he
Oh,
could have done it.
He could have done it. I like John Turturro.
Yeah, because he is also kind of a little bit out there.
Yeah.
Matt Dillon.
Maybe.
Yeah. Rob Lowe, who I think could have been very pretty, but I don't
Yeah,
know that
Rob
he
would have been.
I
Yeah,
don't know that I could see him pulling off like
I
the
don't know the
acting of
acting
it.
chops. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, he would have made
He would have looked lovely.
yeah, he would have.
Johnny Depp. Mm,
I could see that, and I could see it, but I could see
yeah.
both of that, both the looks
Yeah.
and the acting. Because I like Johnny Depp. I know a lot of people, have mixed feelings, but I do think he is a very creative actor.
Yeah. Yeah. Tom Cruise,
No,
which like it's hard to imagine. Tom Cruise is like too like intense to me.
well, not only that, but he'd be like the shortest one in the cast.
That's true. That's true. He'd be
Everybody
shorter
else
than
would have
Chi
to
Chi.
stand in a ditch, or he'd have to
Well,
stand
he'd
in
be
a.
wearing heels the whole time.
Well,
They'd have to
that's
give him a
yeah,
platform.
yeah. So
And then
no,
Robin Williams, who again got a
yeah.
cameo. So Patrick Swayze was one of the last actors to audition, and it was his walk. Because
Well,
obviously
he's a
he's a
dancer,
dancer, yeah,
right?
so he can move with
And
grace in a
and,
way that other people couldn't.
if you watch him walk throughout the movie, that's what one of the things, and in the outfits and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So if you don't know who that is,
Hmm.
like walking away from the camera, you wouldn't know that. Oh, that's a man in women's clothes. At least to me,
Yeah. Well, listen to this. He had his own makeup people transform him
really.
into a woman and walked around town with the director to be like, watch me pass as a woman walking
And,
around
and
town.
nobody called him on it.
Um, I guess. Well, it says with his beauty and dancer's grace, he did just that and he got the job.
Okay.
So, as I mentioned, there are a lot of like real drag queens in the movie, like RuPaul, Lady Bunny, Coco Peru. Those are the ones that I know best, but others include Joey Arias, Misunderstood, Candace Kane. I know Candace Kane. I don't know where they showed Candace Kane. Flotilla DeBarge, Lady Kateria, and Quentin Crisp.
That's a
And
great name
so
too, by the way, Flotilla DeBarge.
it's a good one.
That's a great drag name.
Yeah. So, but also the three actors also spent time like with like real drag queens too. And they each kind of got a drag mentor. So a
Oh,
drag
okay.
mother, if you will, to sort of
Uh-huh.
help them. So there was, a level, obviously like they're not drag queens, they're not gay men in real life, but they did work to sort of create a level of authenticity. Um, and then there was a great costume designer who made all of
Their outfits.
yeah, and their corsets and their shoes.
So,
Because,
well,
there were
yeah,
some big shoes.
because Patrick Swayze was, I mean, he wasn't huge, but he was kind of tall and stuff, and so I'm assuming, and then Wesley's an athlete, or was, and now
Yeah.
John I know is maybe a little slight in stature,
Yeah.
as far as that goes, but I never got the feel. Well, I guess they wouldn't have been cast in the movie if they hadn't embraced everything, 110%. But it just seemed like, I just really, thought that they did all of them did a really good job. Looks notwithstanding, poor Wesley. And then Wesley's eyes look kind of weird. I thought it's looked like one eye
Well,
was
I
kind of.
think, yeah, I think it's the lashes because also
Is that what it
he wears like
was?
the same size top and bottom lash, which like
Yeah,
looks weird. And I think the problem with wearing fake lashes is if like one of them gets like moved, it makes your whole eye look like
yeah. It looked
wonky.
like it was a wonky.
So
Yeah,
I
like
think it was the lashes.
yeah. So
Because the first scene I was like, why are you wearing a full bottom lash that's the same size as your top lash? But
top
again,
lash.
these
And
are my makeup qualms with
well,
the
just like I said, when they first started showing the very beginning of it, they're making themselves up and stuff, and I thought that was the one thing. I was like, man, that's some serious, intense close-ups of their skin, and
Mhm.
stuff.
Oh
So,
yeah. Oh yeah.
uh,
But yeah, apparently it was like hard to shoot too because it was long. It was 4.5 months, which is pretty long for a movie, especially a movie
oh,
like
okay.
this.
Yeah.
The men are in wigs, makeup,
Hmm.
corsets all the time. John Leguizamo recently said that Patrick Swayze was hard to work with, which like I can't
That's
imagine. I don't
interesting.
know.
I don't know
I love Patrick Swayze, but also like, how can I
who
know?
knows? Maybe he was, maybe because he was pretty popular at this time. So I mean,
Yeah.
he done Roadhouse, he done Dirty
Hmm.
Dancing. I think had he done Dirty Dancing?
Ghost. Yeah, this was the 90s, so Dirty
Yeah.
Dancing
So
was like in the 80s.
80s.
And
Yeah.
Ghost
So
was like 1990.
So, he was, he was already established. That's the reason I
Mhm.
said that bold choices, for the
Yeah,
actors to take on, and Wesley
absolutely.
had done uh, Money Train and White Men Can't Jump.
Yeah. And had he
Uh,
done
I don't know if he'd done Blade yet or not in the
New
movie.
Jack City? Yes, he
Yeah,
had. He
yeah.
had done New
Had he
Jack
done
City.
Passenger 97 yet?
Yes.
See, so I mean, I'm sorry. So see, he was like an action star. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think, yeah, Blade was later, but yeah, he'd done New Jack City, White Man Can't Jump, Passenger 57, Demolition Man.
yeah. Oh, that was the other one I was trying to think of was Sylvester Stallone.
Yep. Yep. So yeah,
So
he's kind of a big in doing some big dude roles.
yeah, I mean, but for them to take on this kind of role, it wasn't like they needed to. So
Right.
I assumed that they wanted to because
Yeah.
that they either they saw a challenge in the part or that they wanted to do something completely different.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm. Yeah.
so and then
So
because you brought up about being in women's clothes and stuff, and it's on my list. Just a couple of different movies, about men dressing up as women, Some Like It Hot
yeah.
is going to be, that to me, that's a classic, but
Hmm.
it's very apparent that, that they are,
Right. It's
everybody thinks they're women, but you could tell that they're not women, but,
yeah.
but you know what I mean? So a difference
Yeah,
of,
yeah. You have like that and like Mrs. Doubtfire and Tootsie, which is like a different vibe.
right.
But of
Yeah.
course, like at the time this came out, it's around the same time as Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
Which is a fabulous movie.
I've never seen that one actually.
The
But I definitely need to.
the photography is great, and
Mm,
even and then the one character the actor that I like is Terrence Stamp, who
mm.
uh, you know who was one of the bad guys in the original Superman movie, by the way.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah, so
But yeah,
but
and then
anyway,
like this is a time when like RuPaul is very popular. The
hmm
documentary Paris is Burning came out in 1990. So also like kind of there's a lot of media around like drag itself and not just like the trope of like man in a dress for laughs kind of
right,
thing.
yeah, which is what
But a
yeah.
lot of that is happening at the same time. But yeah, so I think this movie, it is interesting too. This movie, like not everybody was into it, right? So like there was going to be a scene of them eating at McDonald's, and McDonald's was like, we don't want to be associated
Oh, really?
with this movie, with drag queen culture.
I'm sure times have changed. I'll bet they would jump at the chance now,
Oh my
especially
God,
when you
if RuPaul would do a commercial at McDonald's, they would
Well,
love
or if you
it.
had, say, you had three leading men, who would,
Hmm.
who even though they were in that role, or whatever, that as women, that that they were, I don't know who you'd pick now. Well, we'll say it was Brad Pitt or
Yeah.
someone like that.
Brad Pitt, Leo, or
Yeah,
like, I don't know, Ben Affleck, George Clooney, and Matt Damon.
Matt Damon. There you go. Yeah. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that would be the toughest sell in the world, by the
They
way.
would 1,000 times do it. Like the
Oh
McDonald's
yeah, they
would jump
jump
at the
at it. Yeah,
chance.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I think that like the last fact I want to share, which is just it doesn't have to do with that, but it's just one I enjoy. That the director Bevan Kidron was pregnant. Like she was super pregnant when they made this.
Oh,
And Steven Spielberg kept being like, "Do you want me to step in?" I also love that Steven Spielberg like championed this. I think that that's happy. And also, we've been talking about old Steve a lot. So
yeah.
here's another Steven Spielberg shout out. Love that he's championing a movie like this. But yeah, he kept being like, "You want me to step in?" She's like, "No, I got it." And she basically like gave birth like shortly after they wrapped.
Oh, no
So
kidding.
she
So
she persevered.
good for
So
her.
also, you know what? Men in wigs and makeup. This lady was heavily pregnant making this movie,
And
so suck
probably
it
pretty
up.
uncomfortable,
Probably. It was probably
Yeah.
summer,
Yeah.
probably
Um,
hot.
and
And
out in the
she's
middle of nowhere, or
they filmed
I'm,
most of that in Nebraska.
I was gonna say, did they build the town? I wonder.
No, I think it was a real town.
Jeez.
Which is
Did
like
anybody
who?
actually live there?
Yeah, it was shot on location
Oh God.
in Loma, Lincoln, and Omaha, Nebraska. And the greatly
Perfect.
faded, there's still that Welcome to Snydersville sign in Loma, Nebraska.
Really? Oh,
So like,
road
wait, do
trip.
people live there?
Road
I mean,
trip.
maybe that's a set that they built in that
Oh,
location, but
maybe, yeah.
like, because I'm like, are there really still towns that look like that? I don't know.
We should go rent a 1967 Cadillac convertible and go road trip
Let's do it. We'll road trip to
to
Nebraska, see
Nebraska.
how it goes. But yeah, so I think I don't know. Do you have anything else to add?
No, about the movie, like I said, I enjoyed watching it. And to me, though, there were mixed things. It was fun. It was funny. There were good things, but again, some things down below the surface. That we need to be more tolerant. We need to be more respectful, more understanding towards people, and especially, like I said, I wrote that it's probably more relevant today than it was back 30 years ago, unfortunately. So
Mhm.
take it to for watch it for whatever reason you want to. If you like a good road trip movie, it is funny. There's a lot of good lines. There's a lot to laugh at, but
Mhm.
there's also a lot, I think, that makes us think a little bit, and maybe
Yeah.
that's the best kind of movies. It
Mhm.
entertains us, but it also makes us take a look at ourselves.
Yeah. I think especially with comedy, right? With all good comedy, there's a
Sure.
tinge of sad underneath.
Hmm. I agree. I would agree with that. So,
So,
before we sign off, I wanted to let all of our listeners know, by the way, if any of you are Jeopardy fans, if you watch the final Jeopardy tonight, June 13th, if you watch Jeopardy on June 13th and you are followers of us, you would have known the answer to the final Jeopardy question.
indeed.
So,
Yeah. We were both
Lindsay and
surprised.
I,
It's like they're in our brain.
yeah, Lindsay and I both expressed shock and awe at the final Jeopardy. So anyway, so we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, so check it out. You can look it up on YouTube, and then, if you've been listening to us, you'll know the answer and be like, "Wow, I'm learning so much from some of our parts."
Exactly. So I was going, if you all, yeah. So our podcasts are not only entertaining, but they're also informative.
Yes, you're welcome, people. You're welcome. Well, with that, as always, please leave us a review or comments, questions, especially if you have nice ones or compliments. We love those. You can follow us on Instagram at Some of Our Parts Pod. We like to post some clues for what's coming next, and you can see kind of all the other movies that we've covered. And then until next time, bye bye.
Take care.